Your father's hand was completely limp when I moved it to forge his signature. See, I'm holding his wrist like a puppet." The video showed my brother-in-law Mark manipulating my unconscious father's hand across legal documents, unaware that nurse Patricia Rivera had been recording everything. But why did she have a detective with her? And what else had her hidden cameras captured during my father's final days? My name is Amelia Chen, and I'm standing in a crowded living room, watching my family implode. Just 20 minutes ago, we were gathering to read my father's will. Now my brother-in-law was about to be arrested for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse, all because a hospice nurse decided to become a vigilant. Let me back up 6 weeks. My father, James Chen, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in January. By March, he was in home hospice care. My older sister Diana and her husband Mark had graciously offered to move into Dad's house to help with his care. "It's the least we can do," Diana had said, tears in her eyes. He shouldn't be alone. I lived 40 minutes away and visited daily, but I was grateful Diana could be there full-time. Dad's house, a beautiful colonial worth $2.8 million, was big enough for everyone, and he seemed comforted by having family around. Nurse Patricia Rivera started the same week Diana and Mark moved in. She was a quiet, competent woman in her 50s who handled Dad's medications and comfort care with professional grace. "Your father's a fighter," she told me one afternoon, "but you should prepare. Maybe get legal affairs in order." "Everything's already handled," I assured her. Dad updated his will last year. 50-50 split between Diana and me, just like he always promised. Patricia nodded, but seemed troubled. "In the house?" "That's often where complications arise." "Same thing. We'll sell and split the proceeds." She glanced toward the kitchen where Mark was loudly discussing renovation plans on his phone. "I see. Well, if you need anything documented about your father's condition or mental state, just ask." I didn't think much of the comment then. Dad's condition deteriorated rapidly. Within 3 weeks, he was mostly unconscious, responding only occasionally to voices or touch. Diana and I took shifts sitting with him, holding his hand, telling him we loved him. Mark, meanwhile, seemed more interested in the house than Dad's comfort. "This place could be worth $4 million with some updates," he mentioned one day, measuring the kitchen with his phone app. New kitchen, updated bathrooms. Diana and I could really make something special here. "The house will be sold, Mark," I reminded him coldly. "That's what Dad wanted." He shrugged. "Plans change. Diana's the oldest. Dad probably wants her to have the family home. Dad wants us to split everything equally. He's been very clear." Mark's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We'll see." 2 weeks before Dad died, I arrived for my morning visit to find Mark in Dad's study, going through papers. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Just organizing," he said smoothly. "Diana asked me to get documents ready. You know, for after." Something felt wrong, but before I could investigate further, Patricia called out that Dad was awake and asking for me. Those final conversations with Dad were precious but heartbreaking. He could barely whisper, but his messages were clear. "Take care of each other. Be fair. Love you both equally." "We will, Dad," I promised. "Diana and I will follow your wishes exactly." He squeezed my hand weakly and drifted back to sleep. Dad passed peacefully on a Tuesday morning, Diana and I both holding his hands. Even Mark seemed genuinely moved, comforting Diana as she sobbed. The funeral was beautiful. Friends and family packed the church, sharing stories of Dad's kindness and generosity. For a brief moment, I thought maybe we could get through this as a family. That illusion shattered 3 days later when Diana casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, Dad signed the house over to me before he went into the coma." I nearly dropped my coffee. "What?" "He realized it wasn't fair to make me move after taking care of him," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Mark has the paperwork." "Diana, Dad was barely conscious for weeks before he died. How could he sign anything?" It was during a lucid moment. Mark witnessed it. Red flags everywhere. I immediately called my lawyer, then Dad's lawyer. Neither had heard anything about a property transfer. Bring me whatever documents they have, Dad's lawyer, William Park, instructed. If something was signed without my knowledge while your father was incapacitated, that's a serious problem. When I confronted Diana and Mark, demanding to see the documents, Mark produced a folder with flourish. All perfectly legal, he said smugly. Property transfer deed, signed and dated 2 weeks ago. I witnessed it myself. I studied Dad's signature. It looked wrong. Shaky in places, too firm in others. This is forged, I stated flatly. How dare you? Diana gasped. Mark would never. I want a handwriting expert to examine this. Mark's face darkened. You're being ridiculous. Just because Diana gets the house. Because you forged Dad's signature while he was dying. I shot back. The argument escalated until Mark threatened to ban me from the house entirely. I left, but not before taking photos of every document. The next 2 weeks were a blur of lawyers, handwriting experts, and growing fury. The expert confirmed my suspicions. The signature showed signs of being guided or traced, inconsistent with Dad's typical signing pattern. But proving it was another matter. Without witnesses or evidence of his mental state at the time, it's your word against theirs, William explained. Mark says he witnessed a lucid moment. Hard to disprove. I was preparing for a long legal battle when Patricia Rivera called. Miss Chen, I need to speak with you urgently. Can you meet me at the house? Bring your lawyer. Why? What's wrong? I have something you need to see. I'll explain everything, but you'll want legal counsel present. We agreed to meet the next day at 2 p.m., the same time Mark had scheduled the will reading, confident his forged documents would stand. I arrived with William to find the house full of relatives, all gathered for what Mark was calling the official distribution of assets. He'd even hired his own lawyer to oversee it, clearly expecting no challenges. Patricia was already there, sitting quietly in the corner with a stern-looking man in a gray suit. Shall we begin? Mark's lawyer started, but Patricia stood up. Actually, I have something that needs to be addressed first. Mark looked annoyed. Excuse me, who are you? Patricia Rivera. I was James of Hospice Nurse. And this is Detective Robert Morrison from the Elder Abuse Division. The room went silent. Dade signed everything to me before the TOMA. Mark waved the papers desperately. I have the documents right here. Patricia raised her hand calmly. I have 4K video of you moving his unconscious hand. The detective beside her stepped forward, badge visible. Mr. Hutchinson, I'll need you to remain seated. Mark's face cycled through emotions: confusion, fear, rage. This is ridiculous. You can't record patients without consent. Actually, Patricia said, pulling out a tablet, I can, and I did. With both James's and Amelia's consent. I blinked in surprise. My consent. Patricia smiled slightly. 6 weeks ago, when I mentioned documenting your father's condition, you agreed. I had you sign a consent form for continuous monitoring for medical documentation. You probably thought I meant charts and notes. She turned the tablet toward the room. But I meant this. The video was crystal clear. Time-stamped 2 weeks before Dad's death, it showed his bedroom from an angle that captured both his bed and the side table where documents might be signed. There was my father, unconscious and still. And there was Mark, entering with papers and a pen. The audio was damning. Okay, James, Mark said to my comatose father. Time to sign some papers. Don't worry, Diana will take good care of your house. We watched in horrified silence as Mark lifted Dad's limp hand, wrapped the fingers around a pen, and physically moved the hand across the signature line. Your father's hand was completely limp when I moved it to forge his signature. See, I'm holding his wrist like a puppet. Mark's voice narrated his own crime, apparently thinking he was alone. But it got worse. The video continued as Mark practiced Dad's signature on spare papers, comparing them to an old document for reference. "Almost got it," he muttered. "Just need to make it shakier. There." Patricia paused the video. "I have 17 hours of footage showing Mr. Chen's condition during the relevant period. At no point was he conscious enough to sign anything. I also have video of Mr. Hutchinson removing original will documents from the study and replacing them with forgeries." Detective Morrison stepped forward. "Mr. Hutchinson, you're under arrest for forgery, elder abuse, fraud, and attempted grand theft. You have the right to remain silent." As they cuffed Mark, Diana finally found her voice. "I didn't know. Mark said Dad wanted. He told me Dad asked." "There's more," Patricia said quietly, starting another video. This one showed Mark and Diana in the kitchen, discussing their plans. "Once we get the house, we can take out loans against it," Mark was saying. "Your sister won't fight too hard if we throw her a bone. Maybe $500,000 to go away quietly." Diana's recorded voice responded, "But Dad wanted us to split everything. It doesn't feel right." "Your dad's not thinking clearly. We're doing him a favor, making sure the house stays in the family. Besides, after everything you've done for him, you deserve it." "I guess you're right." The detective looked at Diana. "Mrs. Hutchinson, we'll need to speak with you as well." As chaos erupted, relatives shouting, Diana crying, lawyers frantically making calls, I sat down next to Patricia. "Why?" I asked simply. "Why go to all this trouble?" Patricia's professional mask slipped, revealing deep anger. "I've been a hospice nurse for 30 years. You know how many times I've watched family members rob dying patients, forge documents, steal belongings, manipulate inheritances." She shook her head. "Usually I can't prove anything. But your father, he was aware of what was happening. During one of his lucid moments, he asked me to protect you. Said he was worried about Mark but couldn't do anything. Dad asked you to record. He consented to any and all documentation necessary to preserve his true wishes. I interpreted that liberally." She smiled grimly. "I've had cameras installed in every room I work in for the past 5 years. Families never notice. They're too focused on what they can take." William, my lawyer, was practically gleeful. "This evidence is ironclad. The forged documents are void. The original will stand. And Mark's looking at serious prison time." Over the following days, the full extent of Mark's scheme emerged. He'd forged not just the house transfer, but also documents trying to access Dad's investment accounts. He'd even attempted to change the beneficiaries on Dad's life insurance. All of it caught on Patricia's cameras. Mark was charged with 8 felony counts. Diana, after proving she was largely ignorant of the scheme's extent, received probation for conspiracy. Their marriage didn't survive the scandal. The house sold for $3.1 million. Diana and I split everything equally, just as Dad wanted. She apologized profusely, claiming Mark had manipulated her while she was grieving. Maybe that was true. Maybe not. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. But the real hero was Patricia Rivera, the quiet hospice nurse who'd appointed herself guardian of the dying. "I've got 12 active cases right now," she told me over coffee a month later. 3 of them show signs of family members planning something similar. The cameras keep running. Isn't that legally gray? Families sign comprehensive consent forms for monitoring and documentation. They assume it's medical. I never claim otherwise. She shrugged. "I've helped expose 15 cases of elder fraud in 5 years. Recovered millions in stolen assets. Sent 6 people to prison. All because you record everything. All because I listen to my patients. The dying see clearly who loves them, who's waiting for them to die, who's already stealing from them. They know. They just can't always fight back." She pulled out a business card. "I'm starting a nonprofit. Guardians for the Dying. Training nurses in documentation, providing camera equipment, working with elder abuse prosecutors." Your father's case will help us get funding. I wrote her a check for $100,000 on the spot. Mark got 7 years in federal prison for the forgery and elder abuse. The prosecutor said the video evidence was the clearest case of inheritance fraud she'd ever seen. At sentencing, Mark tried to claim Patricia had entrapped him, that the recordings were illegal, that he was manipulated by grief. The judge wasn't moved. "Mr. Hutchinson," she said sternly, "you puppeteered a dying man's hand to steal millions from his daughter. The only manipulation here was yours. The fact that someone was smart enough to document your crimes doesn't make you a victim. It makes you a caught criminal. I still have dinner with Patricia occasionally. She updates me on her cases, always anonymized, always professional. But the satisfaction in her voice when she describes catching another would-be thief is unmistakable. Your father would be proud," she told me recently. "His case has helped save dozens of other families from the same fate." I think about Dad often, especially his final lucid words asking Patricia to protect me. Even dying, even powerless, he found a way to ensure his wishes were honored. And somewhere out there, Patricia Rivera continues her vigilant watch, cameras rolling, documenting the truth for those who can no longer speak it themselves. The detective beside her had stepped forward that day, ending Mark's scheme. But the real detective was the nurse who'd been investigating all along, hidden in plain sight, protecting the vulnerable one recorded frame at a time. Justice isn't always about courts and lawyers. Sometimes it's a hospice nurse with a hidden camera and the determination to stand guard over those who can no longer stand for themselves.
The crystal chandelier cast shadows across my mother's dining room table like prison bars. I should have known that was an omen. My name is Carmen, and I've spent 28 years being the family disappointment. Tonight was supposed to be just another Christmas dinner, where I smiled politely while my mother paraded my older brother around like he'd personally invented money. What I didn't expect was for everything to change with a single email notification. "Carmen, darling, could you please put that phone away?" My mother's voice cut through the dinner conversation like a blade wrapped in silk. "We're celebrating Forrest's promotion to senior vice president." I slipped my phone face down on the white tablecloth, but not before catching a glimpse of the sender. Sundance Film Festival. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Sorry, Mom." "Congratulations, Forrest." I raised my wine glass with everyone else, watching my brother's perfectly practiced smile. "Thank you, Carmen." Forrest straightened his tie, the same gesture he'd made since we were kids, whenever he wanted attention. It's been a challenging year, but the firm finally recognized my dedication. 33 years old and already making partner track. My mother beamed, her manicured hand resting on his shoulder. "I always knew you'd make something of yourself." The unspoken comparison hung in the air like smoke. Unlike your sister, who's still waiting tables at 28. Martina, my mother's best friend and professional enabler, leaned forward with predatory interest. "And Carmen, dear, how's your little hobby going? Still making those videos?" The word hobby hit like a slap. 2 years of 18-hour days, 3 jobs, maxed out credit cards, and sleeping on my friend's couch weren't a hobby. But I learned long ago that defending myself only gave them more ammunition. "It's going well, thank you." "She's being modest," my mother said, though her tone suggested the opposite. "Carmen's been working on some sort of documentary. About families, I believe." "How fascinating!" Martina's smile was razor sharp. "What kind of families?" Before I could answer, my mother continued. "I keep telling her she should consider something more stable. Forrest could probably get her an entry-level position at his firm. Administrative work, perhaps." My cousin Hadley shifted uncomfortably beside me. We used to be close as kids, before family politics drove a wedge between us. Now she just stared at her plate whenever these conversations started. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm committed to filmmaking." "Commitment is admirable," my mother said, cutting her prime rib with surgical precision. "But at some point, one must face reality. You can't live in a fantasy forever. Forrest chuckled. Come on, Mom. Let Carmen have her dreams. Some people need longer to figure out what they're good at. The condescension in his voice made my teeth clench. He had no idea what I was good at because he'd never bothered to look. My phone buzzed against the table. I ignored it. I just worry, my mother continued, her voice taking on that familiar tone of fake concern. You're almost 30, Carmen. Most people your age have established careers, families, some sense of direction. Gwendolyn's right. Martina nodded sagely. My daughter Sarah just bought her second house. She's only 26. The phone buzzed again, then again. I think Carmen's doing fine, Hadley said quietly, the first word she'd spoken all evening. Of course you do, dear, my mother smiled. You always were too kind for your own good. The dismissal was complete. Not just of me, but of anyone who dared suggest I might have value. I felt the familiar burn of humiliation creep up my neck. My phone lit up with another notification. I couldn't help myself. I glanced down. The preview text made my world tilt. Congratulations! We are pleased to inform you that your documentary submission has been accepted. I blinked hard, certain I was hallucinating. But the words remained. Sundance Film Festival. Carmen? My mother's voice seemed to come from underwater. Are you listening? I looked up to find everyone staring at me. My mother had her wine glass raised in what I realized was a toast. I was just saying how proud we are of both our children, even if they're at different stages in their journeys, to family and to accepting ourselves as we are. The toast was a masterpiece of passive aggression, a celebration of Forrest's success wrapped around a gentle reminder of my failure. Everyone clinked glasses while I sat there, my phone burning against my palm with the secret that would change everything. To family, I echoed, my voice steadier than I felt, but inside, I was already planning my revenge. The alarm screamed at 5 a.m., same as every day for the past 2 years. I rolled off Fatima's couch, grabbed my uniform, and prepared for another day in my triple life circus. Coffee's ready, Fatima called from the kitchen, already dressed for her job at the community theater. You look like you got hit by a truck. Feel like it, too. I poured coffee into my travel mug, the same chip one I'd been using since college. Breakfast shift at Romano's. Then I've got 6 dogs to walk. Then cleaning offices until midnight. When do you sleep? Sleep is for people who don't have documentaries to finish. Fatima studied my face. You're different today. What happened at dinner? I couldn't tell her about Sundance yet. It felt too fragile, too unreal. Same old family drama. Forrest got promoted. I got lectured about my life choices. Your mother needs therapy. My mother needs a reality check. I grabbed my camera bag. Speaking of which, I might get some good footage today. The breakfast rush at Romano's was brutal as always. I balanced plates, refilled coffee, and smiled at customers who treated me like furniture. But I'd learned to use these jobs as research. Every entitled customer, every condescending comment, every moment of being invisible, it all went into my film. During my break, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from unknown numbers and a dozen emails. My heart raced as I opened the first one. Ms. Carmen, this is Jessica from Sundance Programming. We'd love to schedule a call to discuss your film's screening slot. I nearly dropped my phone. Carmen! My manager's voice cut through my shock. Break's over! The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I served eggs and pancakes while my mind reeled with possibilities. Sundance. Actual Sundance. By noon, I was in Central Park with my regular pack of dogs. Mrs. Henderson's poodle, the Johnsons' golden retriever, and 4 others whose owner saw me as just another service provider. They had no idea I was documenting their casual cruelty. Carmen, Duchess seemed sluggish today, Mrs. Henderson said. not looking up from her phone. I hope you're not overfeeding her. No, ma'am, same routine as always. Well, make sure you're paying attention. These dogs cost more than your monthly salary. I smiled and nodded, but my camera was recording from my bag. Every dismissive comment, every casual insult. It was all going into the film. The afternoon brought more emails. A producer from Netflix wanted to discuss potential acquisition opportunities. My hands shook as I read it twice, then 3 times. You okay? Asked Jake, another dog walker I'd met in the park. Yeah, just work stuff. Tell me about it. These rich people think we're robots. He had no idea how right he was. By 6 p.m., I was at the office building downtown, pushing my cleaning cart through corporate hallways. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was literally cleaning up after people like my brother while secretly creating something that would expose their world. Excuse me. A woman in an expensive suit stopped me near the elevators. The bathroom on the 3rd floor needs attention. Someone spilled coffee. I'll take care of it. She walked away without a thank you, already back on her phone. I pulled out my camera and filmed the empty hallway, narrating quietly. This is what invisible looks like. 3 jobs, no recognition, no respect. But invisibility has advantages. People say things around you they'd never say to someone they considered equal. My phone buzzed. Fatima, how's the day from hell going? Actually, I need to tell you something. Can you meet me at that diner on 5th Street when I'm done? Everything okay? Better than okay, I think. The rest of my shift crawled by. I mopped floors and emptied trash cans while my mind raced with possibilities. Netflix. Sundance. The validation I'd been craving for years was suddenly within reach. At midnight, I finally met Fatima at the diner. She took one look at my face and ordered 2 pieces of pie. Spill it. My documentary got into Sundance. Her fork clattered onto her plate. Are you serious? Dead serious. And Netflix wants to talk. Carmen. She reached across the table and grabbed my hands. This is huge. This is everything you've worked for. I know. I can't believe it's real. What did your family say? I shook my head. They don't know. Nobody knows except you. Why not? I thought about my mother's toast, about Forrest's condescending smile, about years of being treated like a failure. Because I want to choose the moment. I want to control the narrative for once. Fatima grinned. You're planning something, aren't you? Maybe. Carmen Gill, you beautiful, devious genius. I smiled back, but my mind was already working. My mother's 60th birthday was coming up in 2 months. She was planning some elaborate dinner party, another chance to show off Forrest and dismiss me. But this time would be different. This time, I'd have the last word. The country club buzzed with the sound of clinking champagne glasses and forced laughter. Forrest's firm was hosting their annual networking brunch, and my mother had insisted I attend as family support. Translation: she wanted witnesses for another public display of her golden child. Carmen, you made it. Forrest appeared beside me, his smile as polished as his cufflinks. I wasn't sure you'd have time, what with your busy schedule. The sarcasm was subtle but sharp. I'd learned to document these moments, so I casually positioned my phone to record. Wouldn't miss it. Congratulations on the partnership track. Thank you. It's been a long road, but hard work pays off. He straightened his tie, that familiar gesture. Speaking of work, how's the unemployment line treating you? My mother materialized with Martina in tow, both dressed like they were attending a royal wedding. Forrest, darling, everyone's asking about your promotion, my mother beamed. The Hendersons want to introduce you to their son-in-law. He's in private equity. Of course, Mom. Forrest kissed her cheek. Carmen was just telling me about her latest project. Oh? Martina's eyebrows arched with predatory interest. Still playing with that camera? I'm working on a documentary about family dynamics, I said carefully. How ambitious, my mother said, her tone suggesting the opposite. Though I do worry about you spending so much time on these creative pursuits. At your age, shouldn't you be thinking about stability? A small crowd had gathered around us, drawn by my mother's theatrical voice. She loved an audience for her maternal concern performances. Carmen's always been the dreamer in the family, Forrest chimed in. Some people are built for business, others for hobbies. The word hung in the air like a slap. Several people chuckled politely. It's not a hobby, I said quietly. Of course not, dear. My mother patted my arm condescendingly. But you have to admit, it's not exactly a career path. Not like what Forrest has built. Forrest has certainly done well for himself, agreed Mrs. Patterson, one of my mother's social circle. Such a handsome, successful young man. You must be so proud. Incredibly proud, my mother glowed. He's everything a mother could want in a son. The implication was crystal clear, unlike her daughter. What exactly does your documentary cover? Asked Mr. Davidson, Forrest's colleague. Generational patterns in family relationships. How certain behaviors get passed down and reinforced. Sounds fascinating, he said, though his attention was already drifting toward Forrest. It really is, I continued, my voice gaining strength, especially the sections on favoritism and emotional manipulation. My mother's smile flickered for just a moment. Well, Martina jumped in quickly, I'm sure it's very therapeutic for you, dear. Actually, it's been incredibly revealing. You'd be amazed what people will say and do when they think no one's really watching. Forrest's laugh was too loud, too forced. Carmen's always been observant, sometimes a little too observant, if you know what I mean. Oh, I know exactly what you mean, I smiled back at him. The conversation moved on, but I kept my phone recording. Every dismissive comment, every patronizing laugh, every moment of being treated like an embarrassment. It was all going into my film. Later, I found myself in the bathroom, touching up my lipstick when I heard familiar voices from the hallway. She's becoming a problem, Forrest was saying. What do you mean? My mother's voice was sharp with concern. This documentary thing. What if she's filming us? What if she puts our family business out there for everyone to see? Don't be ridiculous. Carmen doesn't have the backbone for something like that. I'm serious, Mom. She's been acting different lately, more confident. It makes me nervous. Oh, Forrest, darling, you're overthinking this. Carmen's little project will never see the light of day. She doesn't have the connections, the talent, or the drive to make anything significant happen. But what if nothing? Your sister is a dreamer who will always be a dreamer. She'll make her little movie, show it to her friend, and then reality will set in, just like it always does. I pressed my back against the bathroom door, my phone capturing every word. I just don't want her embarrassing the family, Forrest said. She won't. Trust me, I know my daughter. She talks big, but she never follows through. It's been the pattern her entire life. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. I stayed in the bathroom for another 5 minutes, staring at my reflection. My mother's words echoed in my head. She never follows through. When I finally emerged, I found Forrest holding court near the bar, regaling a group with stories about his latest deal. My mother stood beside him like a proud peacock basking in reflected glory. I walked over and tapped Forrest on the shoulder. Excuse me, I need to head out. Early day tomorrow. Of course, he said dismissively. Good seeing you, Carmen. You too. Oh, and Forrest? Yeah? That documentary I'm working on, it's going to be bigger than you think. I walked away before he could respond, leaving him with a confused frown and my mother's nervous laughter ringing in my ears. Outside, I called Fatima. How did it go? Perfect. I got everything I needed. For the film? For the film, and for something else. The plane touched down in Salt Lake City, and I still couldn't believe I was actually here. Fatima squeezed my hand as we gathered our bags. You ready for this? I don't think anyone's ever ready for Sundance, I said, my voice shaking slightly. The shuttle to Park City was packed with filmmakers, distributors, and industry people. Everyone looked more confident than I felt. I clutched my festival badge like a lifeline. First time? Asked the woman sitting across from us. She had that effortless Hollywood polish that screamed established filmmaker. Yeah, you. Fifth time. Word of advice, don't let the chaos overwhelm you. Just focus on your film and trust the work. Easy for her to say. She probably didn't max out 3 credit cards to get here. Our hotel was a tiny room that cost more per night than I usually spent on groceries in a month. But when I saw the festival schedule with my film listed, Fractured Mirrors, a documentary by Carmen Gill, none of that mattered. Look at that. Fatima pointed at my name in the program. You're a real filmmaker now. I've been a real filmmaker. Now I'm just a filmmaker people might actually see. The first screening was in 2 days. I spent the time attending other documentaries, trying to calm my nerves and figure out how this whole world worked. Everyone seemed to know everyone else. I felt like an outsider looking in. Carmen? A man in an expensive jacket approached me after a screening. I'm Todd from Netflix. We've been following your film since the submission. My heart stopped, following it. We requested an advance screener from the festival. Very impressive work. Raw, honest, unflinching. We'd love to chat after your premiere. He handed me his card and disappeared into the crowd before I could respond. Did that just happen? Fatima whispered. I think so. The day of my screening arrived gray and snowy. I stood outside the theater, watching people file in, wondering if anyone would actually show up. The venue held 200 people. Nervous? Fatima asked. Terrified? Good. That means it matters. By showtime, the theater was packed, standing room only. I introduced the film with shaking hands and a voice that barely carried to the back row. This is a story about family, about the patterns we inherit, and the courage it takes to break them. Thank you for being here. The lights dimmed. For the next 90 minutes, I watched my life unfold on screen. The hidden camera footage from family dinners, the interviews with other people who'd experienced similar dynamics, the careful reconstruction of conversations that had shaped my entire sense of self-worth. I'd changed names and details, but the emotional truth was undeniable. This was my family, laid bare for the world to see. The final scene showed me working my 3 jobs, narrating over the footage. They call it the American dream, but what happens when your own family is the thing standing between you and that dream? The screen went black. Silence stretched for what felt like hours. Then someone started clapping, then another person. Then the entire theater erupted in applause. People stood up. I saw tears on faces throughout the audience. Holy shit, Fatima whispered beside me. The Q&A was a blur of questions about my process, my inspiration, my courage. One woman in the front row asked, "How did your family react when they saw this?" "They haven't seen it yet," I said into the microphone, "but they will." After the screening, Todd found me in the lobby. "That was extraordinary," he said. "Hauntingly familiar, like I said. We'd like to make an offer." "An offer?" "For distribution rights. We think this could reach a massive audience. People need to see this story." He handed me a folder. "Take a look at these numbers and let me know." I opened the folder in the hotel room later that night. The first page showed a licensing deal for $4.2 million. "Fatima," I said quietly. "What?" "Look at this." She read over my shoulder, her eyes widening. Carmen, this is life-changing money." "I know. You could quit all 3 jobs. You could make another film. You could..." I could finally show my family exactly who they'd been dismissing all these years. The next morning, I called Todd and accepted the deal. The contracts would be ready in a week. One question, I said. When does this go public? We'll announce the acquisition next month. The film will launch on the platform in 6 months. Why? Just curious about timing. I hung up and stared out at the snow-covered mountains. My mother's 60th birthday was in 3 weeks. She was planning an elaborate dinner party at the country club. 40 guests, all her society friends, all the people who'd watched her dismiss me for years. You're planning something diabolical, aren't you? Fatima said. I'm planning justice. What's the difference? Justice is when the truth finally comes out, and everyone has to watch. I pulled out my phone and started typing a text to my mother. Can't wait for your birthday dinner. I have a special gift for you. Her response came immediately. How thoughtful, dear. Though please don't spend money you don't have. I smiled and deleted the text thread. In 3 weeks, she'd understand exactly how much money I had. And exactly how little she knew about her own daughter. The Netflix contract arrived on a Tuesday, thick and official in its FedEx envelope. I signed it in Fatima's kitchen while she made coffee, trying to act casual about becoming a millionaire. So what's the plan? She asked, sliding the mug across the counter. Simple. I show up to Mom's birthday dinner, act normal, then give her the gift of truth. And by truth, you mean I held up the contract, front page clearly showing my name and the $4.2 million figure. This truth. You're diabolical. I love it. The next 3 weeks were the strangest of my life. I kept working my jobs, kept living on Fatima's couch, kept pretending nothing had changed. My mother called twice to discuss dinner arrangements. I do hope you'll dress appropriately, Carmen. This is a sophisticated crowd. Of course, Mom. I actually bought a new dress. Oh? Nothing too expensive, I hope. You know how I worry about your finances. Don't worry. I can afford it. I'd spent $800 on a designer dress from Nordstrom. The first expensive thing I'd bought myself in years. It felt like armor. Well, that's good, dear. I'm just glad you're making an effort. The condescension was automatic. Reflexive. She couldn't help herself. I'm always making an effort, Mom. You just never notice. Of course I notice. I notice everything about my children. Do you? Carmen, is something wrong? You sound different. I'm fine. Just looking forward to celebrating you. A week before the party, I decided to visit my mother's house. I told her I wanted to help with preparations, but really, I was looking for ammunition. Years of being dismissed had taught me to be observant, and I'd always suspected there were family secrets hiding in plain sight. Carmen, what a surprise! My mother opened the door in full makeup despite being home alone. I wasn't expecting you. Thought I'd see if you needed help with anything. How thoughtful. Come in, come in. The house was immaculate as always, every surface polished to perfection. We sat in her pristine living room, surrounded by family photos that told the story she wanted the world to see. Successful son, devoted mother, picture-perfect family. Can I get you some tea? That would be nice. While she was in the kitchen, I wandered over to her antique secretary desk. The drawers were usually locked, but today the bottom one was slightly open. Inside, I saw a stack of letters tied with a ribbon. Here we are, my mother returned, with a tea service that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Mom, who's Maurice? She nearly dropped the teapot. What? Maurice. I saw some letters. Those are private, Carmen. Her voice was sharp, defensive. You shouldn't be going through my things. I wasn't going through anything. The drawer was open. She moved quickly to the desk, slamming the drawer shut. But I'd already seen enough. Love letters. dated from 34 years ago, right around the time Forrest was born. Maurice is an old friend, nothing more. An old friend who writes love letters? Carmen, this is inappropriate. Those letters are ancient history. Ancient history that you kept tied with a ribbon? My mother's perfectly composed facade cracks slightly. Some things are complicated. You wouldn't understand. Try me. No. She straightened, regaining control. This conversation is over. If you can't respect my privacy, perhaps you should leave. I stood up, my mind racing. Of course. I'm sorry for overstepping. Thank you. I'll see you at the dinner. I drove straight to Fatima's and pulled up everything I could find about Maurice Stewart online. Real estate developer, divorced, lived in the same social circles as my mother. In one society page photo from 30 years ago, I found him standing next to my mother at a charity gala. They looked very cozy. You think he's Forrest's father? Fatima asked, reading over my shoulder. I think it's possible. Would explain a lot. Like what? Like why Mom always treated me differently. Like why I look nothing like Forrest or my supposed father. Like why she's always been so desperate to make Forrest look perfect. What are you going to do with this? Nothing. Yet. The Netflix contract is enough for now. But you're keeping it in your back pocket. Insurance policy. The night before the party, I laid out my dress and practiced my speech in the mirror. Simple, direct, devastating. Thank you all for being here to celebrate my mother. She's taught me so much about perseverance, about never giving up on your dreams, about the importance of family. Tonight, I want to give her something special, something that shows how much her lessons have meant to me. My phone buzzed with a text from Forrest. Looking forward to tomorrow. Try not to embarrass Mom, okay? I typed back, wouldn't dream of it. Then I deleted the message and went to bed. Tomorrow, my family would finally see me, really see me, and they were going to hate every second of it. The country club's private dining room sparkled like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in ivory silk, and 40 of my mother's closest friends mingled with champagne glasses and practiced smiles. I arrived fashionably late in my designer dress, the Netflix contract folded neatly in a cream-colored envelope tucked inside my purse. Carmen! My mother glided over, resplendent in midnight blue silk. You look lovely. The surprise in her voice was barely concealed. She wasn't used to seeing me look like I belonged in her world. Happy birthday, Mom. 60 looks amazing on you. Thank you, darling. She air-kissed my cheek. Everyone's been asking about you. Have they? Well, Martina mentioned you might have some exciting news to share. I smiled mysteriously. Maybe. Forrest appeared at my elbow, looking every inch the successful executive in his tailored suit. Carmen, glad you made it. You clean up nice. Thanks. You look exactly the same as always. He missed the barb entirely. So what's this big news Mom mentioned? You'll have to wait and see. The dinner was a masterclass in social theater. My mother held court at the head table while guests took turns offering toasts and anecdotes about her charitable work, her impeccable taste, her wonderful children. Gwendolyn has always been such an inspiration, gushed Mrs. Patterson. Raising 2 children, maintaining her social commitments, always looking absolutely perfect. And Forrest, added Mr. Davidson. What a success story. You must be so proud. My mother beamed, incredibly proud. He's everything a mother could want. I sat at the family table, smiling politely, while the familiar sting of being overlooked washed over me. Hadley caught my eye from across the table and offered a sympathetic smile. And Carmen, Martina's voice cut through the chatter, how are your little projects coming along? The table quieted. All eyes turned to me. Actually, they're going very well, better than expected. Oh? My mother's eyebrows arched. You didn't mention any developments. I wanted it to be a surprise. Forrest leaned back in his chair. Carmen's always full of surprises, usually the kind that require damage control. Polite laughter rippled around the table. I felt my jaw clench. Actually, Forrest, I think you'll find this particular surprise quite illuminating. Something in my tone made him sit up straighter. The main course was cleared, and my mother stood to address her guests. She looked radiant, confident, completely in her element. Thank you all for being here tonight. 60 years feels like both a lifetime and a blink of an eye. I'm surrounded by the people who matter most to me, and I couldn't ask for anything more. Applause filled the room. She gestured toward our table. My children have been my greatest joy. Forrest, my successful son who makes me proud every single day. And Carmen, my creative daughter who keeps life interesting. More laughter. The casual dismissal was so automatic, she probably didn't even realize she'd done it. Now, before we have cake, I believe Carmen has something she'd like to share. My heart hammered as I stood up. The room fell silent. 40 pairs of eyes focused on me. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. Thank you, Mom. You're right. I do have something to share. Something special for your birthday. I walked around the table to where she sat, the envelope in my hands. You've always taught me the importance of perseverance, of never giving up, even when people don't believe in you, even when your own family thinks you're wasting your time. My mother's smile flickered slightly. You've also taught me that actions speak louder than words, that success is the best revenge. So tonight, I want to give you something that shows exactly how much your lessons have meant to me. I handed her the envelope. Happy birthday, Mom. She took it with perfectly manicured fingers, her smile bright and expectant. Carmen, you shouldn't have spent money you don't have. Oh, I didn't spend money. I made it. She opened the envelope and pulled out the contract. I watched her eyes scan the first page, watched her face change as she processed what she was seeing. The Netflix logo at the top, my name in bold letters, the licensing fee, $4.2 million. Her hand began to tremble. The smile disappeared entirely. You never told me, she whispered. The room was dead silent, everyone straining to see what had caused such a dramatic reaction. You never cared enough to ask, I said calmly. Carmen, Forrest's voice was sharp with warning. What's going on? My mother looked up at me, her face pale. Your documentary, it was accepted? Not just accepted, bought by Netflix for $4.2 million. Gasps echoed around the room. Martina's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. The film premieres next month, I continued, my voice steady and clear. It's about family dynamics, generational patterns, the way some people build others up while tearing their own children down. My mother's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Congratulations, Mom. You finally have a daughter who's successful enough to meet your standards. The room erupted in whispers and shocked murmurs. Some people started clapping uncertainly. Others just stared. My mother sat frozen, the contract trembling in her hands, her perfect birthday party crumbling around her. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. My mother stared at the contract, her face cycling through shock, confusion, and something that looked like fear. $4 million? Mrs. Patterson's voice cut through the quiet. Carmen, is this real? Very real. I turned to address the room. Netflix bought my documentary about toxic family dynamics. It premieres next month. The whispers started immediately. I caught fragments. Oats. Always knew she had potential. Art. Documentary about what? $4 million. Forrest stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Carmen, can I speak with you privately? Actually, I think we're past private conversations, don't you? His face flushed red. This is inappropriate. This is Mom's birthday. You're right. It is Mom's birthday. And I just gave her the gift of finally having a successful daughter. Isn't that what she always wanted? My mother finally found her voice. Carmen, what exactly is this documentary about? Family? Favoritism? The way some parents build golden pedestals for one child while treating the other like an embarrassment. You filmed us? Forrest's voice was sharp with panic. I filmed life. If you see yourselves in it, that's on you. Martina leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with malicious curiosity. What kind of family dynamics, dear? The kind where a mother spends 30 years telling one child they're perfect, while telling the other they're a disappointment. The kind where success is measured only in dollar signs and social status. Carmen, my mother's voice was barely a whisper. You can't seriously be planning to what? Tell the truth? Share my story? Isn't that what you always said I should do? Follow my dreams? Forrest moved closer, his voice low and threatening. If you embarrass this family, if you air our private business— What? You'll what, Forrest? Dismiss me? Ignore me? Treat me like I don't matter? Because that ship has already sailed. This is blackmail, he hissed. This is success. The kind you're supposed to celebrate, remember? I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Actually, I have something else to share. Forrest went pale. Carmen, don't. Netflix just sent me the trailer. It's going live tonight. I hit send on a pre-written text to my social media accounts. Should be trending within the hour. My mother stood up shakily, still clutching the contract. Excuse me, I need some air. She walked toward the exit and I followed her into the hallway. Forrest was right behind us. How could you do this? She whispered, her perfect composure finally cracking. How could you betray your own family? Betray? I documented reality. If that feels like betrayal, maybe you should ask yourself why. You don't understand the consequences of what you've done. I understand perfectly. For the first time in my life, people are going to see me as successful, as valuable, as worth their attention. Forrest grabbed my arm. You need to stop this. Call Netflix. Tell them you changed your mind. I pulled away from him. Why would I do that? Because you're destroying everything we've built. What we've built, or what you've built on my back while I was invisible. Carmen, please, my mother's voice broke. Think about what this will do to our reputation, to our standing in the community, your standing, your reputation. When have you ever cared about mine? I've always cared about you. No, you've always been embarrassed by me. There's a difference. I reached into my purse and pulled out a second envelope. Actually, Forrest, since we're sharing family news— His face went white. What is that? DNA results. Turns out we're only half siblings. Interesting, right? My mother gasped. Carmen, no. Maurice Stewart sends his regards, by the way. Lovely man. Very chatty when I called him yesterday. Forrest snatched the envelope from my hands, his face cycling through confusion and horror as he read. This is impossible. 23andMe doesn't lie, brother. He looked at my mother, who had gone completely pale. Mom? Forrest, I can explain. You can explain why my entire life is a lie? It's not a lie. You're still my son. I'm still what? The golden child built on a foundation of deception? He crumpled the DNA results in his fist. This is your fault, he snarled at me. You couldn't just leave well enough alone. Well enough for who? For you? For Mom? What about well enough for me? You've destroyed everything. I've revealed everything. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with notifications. The trailer was live. I glanced at the screen. 50,000 views in 10 minutes. It's trending, I announced. Number 3 on Twitter. Fractured mirrors. My mother sank onto a hallway bench, her head in her hands. 34 years of marriage. Gone. Your marriage was built on lies, Mom. That's not my fault. Everything is ruined. Everything was already ruined. I just turned on the lights. Forrest stared at his phone, scrolling through the comments. They're talking about us. People are figuring out it's our family. Good. Let them talk. Let them see what really happens behind closed doors in perfect families. Carmen. My mother looked up at me with tears in her eyes. What do you want from us? I wanted you to see me. Really see me. Mission accomplished. I walked back toward the dining room, where the guests were buzzing with excitement and confusion. Some had left, but others were glued to their phones, watching the trailer that was making my family famous for all the wrong reasons. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced to the remaining crowd, thank you for celebrating my mother's birthday, and thank you for finally celebrating me. The documentary premiered on Netflix on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, my phone had 847 missed calls. Carmen, it's your mother. We need to talk. Please call me back. Carmen, this is Forrest. What you've done is unforgivable. The firm is asking questions. Call me. Darling, it's Aunt Patricia. I had no idea what you were going through. I'm so sorry. I deleted them all except the last one. Fatima found me on her couch, laptop open, reading the flood of comments and reviews. How are you feeling? Hollow, I said honestly. I thought I'd feel more triumphant. Revenge isn't supposed to feel good afterward. That's what makes it revenge instead of justice. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing alone, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Should I let her in? Fatima asked. Yeah, might as well finish this. My mother entered like she was walking into a courtroom. Her usual perfect composure was gone, replaced by something raw and desperate. Carmen, I've been thinking about what you said, about never seeing you. Have you? I watched your film 3 times. I closed my laptop. And? You were right. About everything. Her voice cracked. I did favor Forrest. I did dismiss your dreams. I did make you feel invisible. Why? She sat down heavily, her hands shaking. Because you reminded me of myself, of who I was before I learned to play their game. You had this fire, this authenticity that I'd buried so deep I forgot it existed. So you tried to bury mine too? I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I could make you more like Forrest, more acceptable, you'd have an easier life. By crushing my spirit, by teaching you to conform. It's what worked for me. Did it work? Because you seem pretty miserable. She was quiet for a long moment. Your father left me yesterday. 34 years of marriage. Over. I'm sorry. Are you? I considered the question. Yeah, I am. I didn't want to destroy your marriage. I just wanted you to acknowledge that I existed. The whole town is talking. Martina won't return my calls. The country club asked me to take a leave of absence from the charity board. So now you know what it feels like to be dismissed. Yes. She looked directly at me for the first time. And it's horrible. Fatima quietly excused herself to the kitchen, leaving us alone. What do you want from me, Carmen? How do I fix this? You can't fix 30 years in one conversation, Mom. But I can try. I can start. My phone buzzed with a text from Hadley. Saw the film. Proud of you. Coffee sometime? Then another from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Carmen. This is Sarah Chen from the LA Times. We'd love to interview you about your documentary's impact on family dynamics. The film is changing things, I said, showing my mother the messages. People are talking about their own families, sharing their stories. Is that what you wanted? I wanted to be seen. Mission accomplished. At what cost? I looked at my mother, really looked at her. She seemed older, more fragile. The armor of perfection had cracked, revealing the scared woman underneath. The cost was telling the truth. If that destroyed things, maybe those things needed to be destroyed. What about us? Is there any chance for us? I don't know. Do you actually want a relationship with me? Or do you just want to control the narrative? I want to know my daughter, the real one, not the version I tried to create. The real me is stubborn. I'm ambitious. I don't care about your social circles or your rules about what success looks like. I make art that makes people uncomfortable. I'm beginning to understand that. My phone rang. Todd from Netflix. Carmen, congratulations. The film is breaking viewing records. We want to discuss your next project. I looked at my mother while I took the call. That sounds great, Todd. I actually have some ideas about generational healing. The work that comes after the truth-telling. When I hung up, my mother was watching me with something I'd never seen before. Respect. You're not the failure I convinced myself you were. No, I'm not. You're successful. More successful than Forrest, if we're being honest. Success isn't a competition, Mom. That's something you never understood. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Would you consider having dinner with me sometime? Just us. No agenda. Maybe. But it would have to be real. No performance. No trying to fix me or change me. Just two women getting to know each other. Just a mother and daughter figuring out if they actually like each other. She smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. I'd like that. After she left, I sat alone in Fatima's living room. The documentary was playing on the TV, my name scrolling in the credits. I'd gotten everything I wanted: recognition, vindication, financial security. But I'd also lost something: the fantasy that my family could change, that love could overcome decades of damage. Maybe that was okay. Maybe some things needed to end before new things could begin. I picked up my phone and started typing a text to Hadley. Coffee sounds perfect. Some bridges burn. Others get rebuilt, stronger than before. I was finally ready to find out which was which.
The pen felt heavier than it should have when I signed my name on the divorce papers. 10 years of marriage reduced to a signature and a filing fee. My name is Naomi, and 3 days ago, my husband Rylan walked out of our house with 2 suitcases and a speech about how my success made him feel unnecessary. Apparently, building a thriving interior design business while he bounced between part-time gigs was emasculating. Who knew ambition was such a turn-off? "You're better off without him, sweetheart," Mom said, setting down a cup of coffee that looked like it had been brewing since the Clinton administration. "Though I have to ask, did you really need to work those late nights? Men need to feel needed." I stared at her across the breakfast table in her dated kitchen, the same one where she'd served me countless lectures about being too much for the past 34 years. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was staying in my childhood bedroom while my ex-husband was probably already swiping right on dating apps. "Thanks for the support, Mom." "I'm just saying," Lucille continued, stirring her coffee with unnecessary force. "Maybe if you'd focused more on your marriage instead of chasing every client in the city, Rylan wouldn't have felt so displaced." Displaced? I repeated the word like it tasted bad. "He felt displaced by my paycheck?" "Don't be dramatic. I'm trying to help you understand what went wrong so you can learn from it." Before I could respond, the front door opened with the theatrical flair that could only mean one person had arrived. "Where's my favorite sister?" Austin's voice boomed from the hallway. "Your only sister," I called back, forcing a smile as he appeared in the doorway. At 30, my younger brother still had that boyish charm that made people forget he'd never held a job for more than 6 months. Naomi! He pulled me into one of those hugs that felt more like a performance than affection. I heard about Rylan. What an idiot, right? Leaving the most successful woman in the family. Mom's face lit up like he'd just announced he'd found the cure for cancer. Austin, honey, sit down. I'll make you some eggs. Actually, I can't stay long. I'm meeting with investors about the showroom. He slid into the chair across from me, that familiar gleam in his eyes that usually preceded a request for money. But since you're here, Naomi, maybe we could talk business. Here it comes. I'm so close to launching this luxury car showroom concept. Think high-end vehicles, but presented like art installations. Rich guys love that stuff. He leaned forward, hands gesturing wildly. I just need a small investment to get the space secured. 5,000. That's nothing for someone with your client list. Mom nodded enthusiastically. It's such a brilliant idea, and family should support family, especially during difficult times. I took a sip of the terrible coffee, buying myself time. $5,000. Exactly. I know it sounds like a lot, but it doesn't sound like a lot, Austin. It sounds like exactly what it is. I set down my cup. When do you need it? His face broke into that winning smile that had gotten him out of trouble since elementary school. Really? You'll do it? I said, when do you need it? End of the week would be perfect. I can send you all the paperwork, business plan, everything. You're going to love what I've put together. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. This is wonderful. You two working together, supporting each other. This is what family looks like. I smiled and nodded, playing the part of the generous big sister. But my mind was somewhere else entirely, remembering a document I'd found buried in my email server 3 months ago. A business registration form with my company's LLC information, filed under Austin's name, my signature, forged in blue ink, my tax ID number, my business address. He'd tried to steal my company identity to launch his little venture, and when that failed, he'd simply moved on to Plan B, asking me to fund it directly. You know what? I stood up and walked to Mom's wine cabinet. This calls for a celebration. It's 10 in the morning, Mom protested. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. I pulled out a bottle of her cheap Chardonnay and poured myself a generous glass. To family. Austin raised his coffee mug. To family. Mom lifted her cup with tears in her eyes. To my children, finally supporting each other. I took a long sip of wine and smiled at them both. These people who'd spent years making me feel like my success was somehow selfish, like my ambition was a character flaw that needed fixing. Let's see how much family really means to you, I whispered into my glass, so quietly only I could hear it. The game was about to begin, and for once, I was holding all the cards. The next morning, I drove to my office with purpose. The building was quiet. Most of my team worked remotely on Mondays, perfect for what I needed to do. I unlocked my computer and pulled up the server files I'd been avoiding for months. There it was, buried in a folder marked Legal Issues. Screenshots, email chains, and documents that painted a very clear picture of attempted fraud. The first email was dated 6 months ago. Austin had contacted my business registrar, claiming to be updating company information and requesting access to modify our LLC structure. When that failed, he'd tried a different approach, filing paperwork to create a subsidiary company under my business umbrella, complete with my forged signature. My phone buzzed. Bella. Coffee. Now. You sounded weird yesterday. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from my best friend at our usual spot, watching her examine the printed documents I'd brought. Holy shit, Naomi. Bella looked up from the papers, her dark eyes wide. He actually tried to steal your company? Not steal. More like borrow without asking. Forever. That's called stealing. She flipped through the pages again. And this signature? This looks nothing like yours. I know. A 5-year-old could have done better. Bella leaned back in her chair. So, when are you calling the police? I'm not. What do you mean you're not? This is fraud. Actual, prosecutable fraud. I stirred my latte slowly. Remember what you always say about timing? That revenge is a dish best served cold? That karma takes better pictures in natural light. I pulled out my phone and showed her Austin's Instagram from yesterday. Look at this. She scrolled through his posts, photos of him at networking events, shaking hands with potential investors, posing next to luxury cars that weren't his. The captions were all about his upcoming launch and exciting partnerships. He's already counting his chickens, Bella said. Exactly, and Mom's so proud of her golden boy's big business venture. I took a sip of coffee. Did you know she never once shared a post about my company? 5 years in business, featured in 3 magazines and radio silence. But Austin posts a picture of himself in a suit, and suddenly she's his personal PR team. Bella's expression softened. This isn't just about the fraud, is it? It's about all of it. The favoritism, the constant criticism, the way they made me feel guilty for succeeding while he got applause for trying. My phone rang. Harper, one of my former clients who'd become a friend. Harper, hey. Naomi. I have the weirdest question. My friend works at the startup grant office downtown, and she mentioned seeing your company name on an application. I thought you might want to know in case someone's using your business without permission. I met Bella's eyes across the table. What kind of application? Some guy named Austin applied for matching startup funds. The application lists your company as a sponsor and includes what looks like an endorsement letter from you. My friend thought it was odd because the signature looked off. Can you get me more details? Already on it. I'll text you her contact info. Her name's Sarah, and she said if there's any fraud involved, they take it very seriously. After I hung up, Bella was grinning. Now that's what I call karma with a paper trail. It gets better. If Austin's applying for matching funds, that means he's probably told investors he already has backing. My backing. Which he doesn't have. Which he'll never have. I pulled up Austin's business plan on my phone, the one he'd emailed me that morning, full of typos and unrealistic projections. Look at this disaster. He's asking for $50,000 in total funding, claiming I've already committed to half. Bella whistled low. So, when the grant office realizes the endorsement is forged, his application gets flagged for fraud investigation. The investors get notified. His credibility disappears overnight. And you? I'm just a concerned business owner reporting suspicious activity involving my company's name. I smiled. Completely innocent. Bella raised her coffee cup. To karma with a law degree. Not yet. I need to be smart about this. If I move too fast, they'll know it came from me. So, What's the plan? I opened my laptop and started typing. First, I'm going to send Austin a very supportive email about his business plan. Tell him how excited I am to help. You're going to lie? I'm going to let him think he's winning. Let him get comfortable, maybe even celebrate a little. And then I'm going to contact the grant office with my concerns about someone forging my signature, completely separate from our family conversation, of course. Bella watched me type, shaking her head slowly. Remind me never to cross you. You'd never steal from me and then ask me to fund your theft. True. But still. She leaned forward. Are you sure about this? Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. I thought about Austin's smug smile yesterday, about Mom's lecture on being too ambitious, about 10 years of marriage ending because I was too successful. I'm sure. 2 days later, I drove back to Mom's house with a bottle of wine and my best acting skills. The performance was about to begin. Naomi! Mom opened the door with genuine surprise. I wasn't expecting you. I brought wine, and I've been thinking about Austin's proposal. Her face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? Come in, come in. Austin's in the living room working on his presentation. I found my brother sprawled across the couch with his laptop, surrounded by printouts and empty energy drink cans. He looked up when I walked in. Naomi, perfect timing. I was just putting the finishing touches on the investor deck. Actually, that's why I'm here. I sat down across from him, setting the wine on the coffee table. I want to help. Austin's eyes widened. Seriously? You're my brother, and after everything with Rylan, maybe Mom's right. Maybe I should focus more on family. Mom practically glowed as she settled into her favorite chair. I'm so proud of you both right now. But I need to understand the business better, I continued. Walk me through the whole plan. Austin launched into his pitch with the enthusiasm of a game show host. The luxury car showroom would cater to wealthy collectors, offering curated automotive experiences and lifestyle integration services. He'd already identified the perfect location, negotiated preliminary terms, and lined up potential inventory. The best part is the matching grant program, he said, pulling up a document on his laptop. For every $1 of private investment, the city matches 50 cents, so your $5,000 becomes $7,500 in actual funding. That's incredible. How did you qualify for something like that? Well, I had to show proof of business experience and community ties. That's where your company came in handy. Mom beamed. Austin was so smart to leverage your success. That's what family does. We lift each other up. What exactly did you tell them about my company? Austin waved his hand dismissively. Just that you're an established local business owner who believes in my vision. I may have mentioned you were considering a partnership. A partnership? Nothing formal, just that you were interested in expanding into related markets. Interior design and luxury automotive go hand in hand, right? I nodded slowly. And they accepted that. They loved it. Having an established business as a sponsor really strengthened my application. I'm curious about the paperwork. Can you show me what you submitted? Austin's fingers flew across his keyboard. Here's the application, and here's the endorsement letter I wrote on your behalf. He turned the laptop toward me. There it was, my company letterhead, my forged signature, and a glowing recommendation for Austin's innovative approach to luxury retail. The letter claimed I was proud to support my brother's venture and confident in his ability to succeed. This is detailed. I know you would have written something similar if you'd had time. I just saved us both the hassle. Mom leaned over to read the screen. It's beautiful, Austin. So professional. The only thing is, I said carefully, I should probably review all the documentation before we move forward, for legal reasons. Of course, I'll email you everything tonight. Actually, why don't you send it now? I'd love to look it over while we're all here together. Austin's fingers paused over the keyboard. Now? Is that a problem? No, no problem. Some of the files are on my other computer at home. That's okay. Send what you have. Mom stood up. I'll open the wine while you boys work on business. We're not boys, Mom, I said. I'm a 34-year-old woman. You know what I meant, sweetheart. Austin was typing rapidly, his earlier confidence replaced by nervous energy. Okay, I'm sending the main application and the business plan. The other stuff is mostly just administrative. My phone buzzed with his email. I opened it and scrolled through the attachments, making sure to look impressed. This is really comprehensive, Austin. I'm genuinely surprised. Thanks. I've been working on it for months. I can tell. The attention to detail is remarkable. I looked up at him, especially the part where you managed to get my signature on documents I've never seen before. The room went quiet. Austin's face went pale. What do you mean? Mom asked, returning with 3 wine glasses. Nothing serious, I said, accepting a glass. Just some paperwork discrepancies. I'm sure it's easily fixed. Austin forced a laugh. Yeah, probably just formatting issues from converting files. Probably. I raised my glass. 2 family businesses. 2 family businesses, Mom echoed. Austin lifted his glass with a shaky hand. 2 family. I took a sip of wine and smiled at them both. I'll review everything tonight and get back to you tomorrow with my decision. Your decision? Mom asked. About the investment. I want to make sure everything's perfect before I write that check. Austin nodded quickly. Of course. Take all the time you need. I stood up, leaving my wine barely touched. Actually, I should head home. Big day tomorrow. Already? Mom looked disappointed. Work calls, but Austin, make sure you send me those other files, the administrative ones. I want to see everything. Sure thing. I hugged them both goodbye, noting how Austin's embrace felt different now. Desperate, almost pleading. Walking to my car, I pulled out my phone and opened my camera. Time to document everything. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for him to walk into it. The next morning, I sat in my office with 3 cups of coffee and a plan that would have made Machiavelli proud. Harper had sent me Mark's contact information at the grant office, along with a detailed breakdown of their fraud reporting process. I opened my laptop and began typing the most important email of my life. Subject: Urgent. Fraudulent use of business identity in grant application. My phone rang before I could finish the first paragraph. Naomi, it's Harper. I talked to Sarah again this morning. She said Austin's application is scheduled for final review tomorrow. Tomorrow? Yeah, and here's the thing. If they approve it, the funds get released immediately. But if there's any question about the documentation, they freeze everything pending investigation. How long does an investigation take? Weeks, maybe months. And once you're flagged for fraud, You're basically blacklisted from all city programs. I smiled at my computer screen. Harper, you're an angel. Just looking out for you. Sarah said to submit any concerns in writing before 5 p.m. today if you want them considered. After hanging up, I went back to my email. I attached screenshots of the forged signature, copies of my actual business registration, and a formal statement declaring that I had never authorized Austin to use my company's name or credentials. Then, I called Mark directly. Grant office, this is Mark. Hi, Mark. This is Naomi Wright from Wright Interior Design. I believe someone has fraudulently used my business information in a grant application. Can you hold, please? Elevator music played for 30 seconds before he returned. Ms. Wright, I have the application in front of me. Austin Wright, Luxury Automotive Showroom? That's my brother. Oh. There was a pause. This is awkward. It's fraud, Mark. Family or not. I understand. Can you email me documentation of your concerns? Already drafted. I'll send it in the next 5 minutes. We'll review it immediately. If there are discrepancies, we'll need to suspend the application pending investigation. I understand. After sending the email, I opened a new message to Austin. Time for Phase 2. Austin, reviewed your materials. Very impressive. I'm ready to move forward with the $5,000. Can you send me your bank details for the transfer? So excited to support your dream, Naomi. I hit send and immediately called Bella. It's done, I said when she answered. The email to the grant office. Sent, and I just told Austin I'm ready to invest. You're evil. I love it. He'll probably get the good news and bad news within hours of each other. What's the timeline? Mark said they'll review my complaint today. Austin thinks he's getting $5,000 from me and $7,500 from the city. Instead, he's getting investigated for fraud. Bella laughed. And your mom? Will probably blame me somehow. Are you ready for that? I looked out my office window at the city skyline, thinking about all the times Mom had made me feel small for succeeding, all the lectures about being too ambitious, too independent, too much. I've been ready my whole life. An hour later, Austin called. Naomi, did you get my bank information? Just saw it. I'll process the transfer this afternoon. You're the best sister ever! I can't believe this is actually happening. Believe it. You've worked so hard for this. I have. And the grant office called this morning. They're doing their final review today. That's wonderful news. I know. By tonight I could have the full funding secured. This is going to change everything. It really is, Austin. After we hung up, I opened my banking app and created a pending transfer for $5,000, scheduled for next week. Just in case he checked his account, he'd see it was processing. My phone buzzed with a text from Harper. Sarah says they received your complaint. Austin's application is being flagged for review. I replied with a thumbs-up emoji and settled back to wait. At 3 p.m., my phone rang. Mark from the grant office. Ms. Wright, we've completed our preliminary review. The signature discrepancies are significant, and the endorsement letter contains claims we can't verify. What happens now? We're suspending the application immediately and opening a formal investigation. Mr. Wright will be notified within the hour. And the investigation? Could take several weeks. If we find evidence of intentional fraud, he'll be permanently barred from city grant programs. I understand. Thank you for taking this seriously. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Family situations like this are never easy. I hung up and stared at my phone, waiting. Austin would get the call soon, probably while he was celebrating his upcoming success. At 4:15, my phone exploded with notifications. Austin was calling, texting, and apparently having a complete meltdown. I let it ring. The texts were a mix of panic and confusion. They suspended my application. Something about signature issues. Can you call me, please? This has to be a mistake. I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of wine. Tomorrow would bring the real fireworks, but tonight I wanted to savor this moment of perfect, calculated justice. The golden boy was about to discover that actions have consequences, and I had front-row seats to watch it all unfold. Sunday dinner at Mom's house felt like attending my own execution, except I was the one holding the axe. "Naomi, sweetheart, you look tired," Mom said, opening the door with her usual mix of concern and criticism. "Just work stress. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't. I never prioritized career over family." I bit my tongue and followed her into the dining room, where Austin was setting the table with unusual enthusiasm. He looked up when I walked in, his face breaking into that familiar golden boy grin. "There she is, my business partner." "Partner?" "Well, investor. Same thing, right?" He pulled out my chair with theatrical flourish. "I have so much to tell you." Mom emerged from the kitchen carrying her famous pot roast, beaming like Austin had just announced he'd won the Nobel Prize. "Austin has the most wonderful news," she said, setting the platter down with ceremony. "The grant office called Friday," Austin said, practically bouncing in his seat. "They want to move forward with my application." I raised my eyebrows. "Really?" "Well, they said they need to verify some documentation, but that's just standard procedure. The program director seemed very interested in the project." Mom clasped her hands together. "I'm so proud. My son, the entrepreneur. And with Naomi's investment, we'll have enough to secure the premium location downtown," Austin continued. "I drove by yesterday. It's perfect. Floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick, enough space for 12 vehicles." "12 vehicles you don't own," I said. "Yet. But the beauty of this business model is the consignment structure. Collectors pay us to display their cars, and we take a percentage of any sales." Mom nodded sagely. "It's brilliant. Austin's always been so creative." "Speaking of creative," I said, cutting into my pot roast, "I'm curious about those documents you mentioned." "The ones you couldn't send the other night." Austin's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What documents?" "The administrative files. You said they were on your other computer." "Oh, those. Just boring legal stuff. Nothing you need to worry about." "I'd still like to see them. For my records." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "Naomi, honey, you don't need to micromanage everything. Austin knows what he's doing." "I'm not micromanaging. I'm being thorough." "You're being controlling," Mom said. "This is exactly what I meant about your marriage. Sometimes you need to trust people." Austin jumped in quickly. "It's fine, Mom. Naomi's just being a good businesswoman. I'll email you everything tonight, sis." My phone buzzed with a text from Bella. Mark replied, "Grant suspended pending fraud review. How's dinner?" I smiled and put my phone away. "That sounds perfect, Austin." You know what we should do? Mom said, refilling our wine glasses. We should celebrate. This is such a big moment for our family. Absolutely, Austin agreed. To new beginnings. To family supporting family, Mom added. To getting what you deserve, I said, raising my glass. We clinked glasses, and I watched them both drink deeply, their faces flushed with wine and anticipation. I keep thinking about Dad, Mom said suddenly. How proud he would be to see Austin following in his entrepreneurial footsteps. Dad sold insurance, I pointed out. He was a businessman, just like Austin. What about me? I've been running a successful business for 5 years. Mom's expression softened with that particular brand of condescension I knew so well. Of course, dear, but interior design is more of a creative pursuit. Austin's building something bigger. Bigger than what? You know what I mean. Austin shifted uncomfortably. Mom, Naomi's business is really successful. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying there's a difference between decorating houses and building an empire. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Bella. You're stronger than me. I would have thrown the pot roast by now. I excused myself to use the bathroom and quickly typed back. Patience. The best part is coming. When I returned to the table, Austin was showing Mom something on his phone. What's that? I asked. Just some photos of the showroom space, Austin said, but his smile seemed forced now. Everything okay? You look a little pale. Fine. Just tired. It's been a busy week. Mom reached over and patted his hand. You've been working so hard, but it's all going to pay off? Austin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went white. What is it? Mom asked. Nothing. Just work stuff. On Sunday? The grant office. They want to schedule a meeting. That's wonderful, Mom exclaimed. Austin stared at his phone screen, his earlier enthusiasm completely gone. Yeah, wonderful. I took another sip of wine and watched my brother's world start to crumble in real time. The phone call was probably from Mark, explaining that his application had been flagged for fraud investigation. Well, I said, standing up and gathering my purse, this has been lovely, but I should head home. Already? Mom looked disappointed. Early morning tomorrow, but Austin, don't forget to send me those files. He nodded absently, still staring at his phone. I kissed Mom's cheek and squeezed Austin's shoulder. Good luck with your meeting. Walking to my car, I could see them through the dining room window, Mom talking animatedly while Austin sat frozen, probably reading the email that would destroy everything he'd been counting on. The real show was about to begin. Monday morning, I turned my phone back on to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The family group chat had exploded overnight. Austin. Emergency family meeting. Something's wrong with the grant. Mom. What do you mean wrong? Austin. They're saying there are issues with my application. Mom. What kind of issues? Austin. Signature problems. They think someone forged documents. Mom. That's ridiculous. Who would do such a thing? I scrolled through the messages, watching the panic unfold in real time. Then my phone rang. Naomi, thank God. Mom's voice was shrill with anxiety. Something terrible has happened to Austin's grant. What kind of terrible? They're accusing him of fraud. Can you believe it? My Austin, who wouldn't hurt a fly. That's awful. What exactly are they saying? Something about forged signatures and fake endorsement letters. It's clearly a mistake. Have you talked to Austin this morning? He's meeting with some investigator right now. He's beside himself. I made appropriate sympathetic noises while opening my laptop to check my email. Mark had sent an update. Austin's meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. and they'd requested all original documentation. I'm sure it will work itself out, Mom. I hope so. This grant meant everything to him. What about his other funding? The private investors? There was a pause. Well, the grant was supposed to be the matching funds. Without it, the investors might pull out. Austin didn't say that exactly, but yes. After hanging up, I called Bella. How's the fallout? She asked immediately. Austin's meeting with investigators as we speak. Mom's in full denial mode. And you? I'm going to work like it's any other Monday. You're ice cold. I respect that. At noon, my phone rang. Austin. Naomi, I need your help. What's wrong? The grant office thinks I forged your signature on some documents. What? That's crazy. I know, but they have these signature comparison experts, and they're saying the endorsement letter doesn't match your real signature. Well, did you forge my signature? Of course not. I mean, I may have signed your name to save time, but it wasn't fraud. You would have signed it anyway, right? I let the silence stretch until he started talking again. The thing is, they want to talk to you, to verify that you actually endorsed my application. But I didn't endorse your application, Austin. I know, but you were going to. You said you wanted to help. I said I wanted to review your business plan. That's not the same as endorsing a grant application. Naomi, please. If you don't back me up, they're going to press charges. Charges? Fraud charges. They're talking about involving the district attorney's office. I sat down at my desk, genuinely surprised by how quickly this was escalating. Austin, I can't lie to investigators. You wouldn't be lying. You were planning to support the business anyway. Planning to consider it. There's a difference. This is my life, Naomi. Everything I've worked for. Everything you've worked for by stealing my company information and forging my signature? The line went quiet. You know, he said finally, I've known for months. Then why didn't you say something? I was waiting to see how far you'd take it. This is about revenge, isn't it? You're still mad about Mom always supporting me. This is about you committing fraud and then asking me to fund your crime. It wasn't a crime. It was family helping family. Without my knowledge or consent. Austin's voice cracked. They're going to destroy me, Naomi. Is that what you want? Before I could answer, he hung up. 20 minutes later, Mom called. How could you do this to your own brother? Do what? Don't play innocent with me. Austin told me everything. You reported him to the grant office. I reported fraudulent use of my business information. The fact that it was Austin is unfortunate. Unfortunate? He's your brother. He's also a thief. He made a mistake. People make mistakes. Forging signatures isn't a mistake, Mom. It's a felony. You could fix this right now. One phone call saying you approved his application. I didn't approve it. But you could say you did. You want me to lie to federal investigators. I want you to save your family. My family should have thought about that before stealing from me. Mom's voice turned cold. You know what your problem is, Naomi. You've always been jealous of Austin. You can't stand that he might succeed. He didn't succeed, Mom. He committed fraud and got caught. By his own sister. By his own choices. Don't expect us to be there when your perfect little life falls apart again. Like you were there during my divorce? That's different. How? You brought that on yourself with your ambition. This is Austin being destroyed by your vindictiveness. I hung up and immediately blocked both their numbers. Then I opened my laptop and started backing up every file, every email, every piece of evidence to a secure cloud server. If they wanted to play victim, I was going to make sure the truth was preserved. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I didn't know you could play dirty. Rylan. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Some bridges were worth burning. Others had already burned themselves. 3 days later, I met Mark at a coffee shop downtown. He looked exactly like I'd imagined. Mid-30s, tired eyes, the kind of government employee who'd seen too much bureaucratic nonsense to be surprised by anything. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "I wanted to update you on the investigation." "How bad is it?" "For your brother?" "Pretty bad. We found evidence of multiple fraudulent documents, not just the signature issue. He created fake business references, inflated revenue projections, even submitted a lease agreement for a property he never actually secured." I sipped my latte. So this wasn't just about using my company name? Not even close. This was systematic fraud designed to secure government funding under false pretenses. Mark pulled out a folder. "The district attorney's office is reviewing the case for potential criminal charges." Criminal charges? Grant fraud is a federal offense. If convicted, he could face up to 5 years in prison and substantial fines. I set down my cup, genuinely shocked. I didn't realize it would go that far. Most people don't. They think it's just paperwork, but we're talking about taxpayer money. The city takes this very seriously. What happens now? We've permanently barred him from all city grant programs. His application has been forwarded to other municipalities as a fraud alert, and we've notified the State Business Licensing Board. Meaning? If he tries to start any business in the future, this will follow him. Mark leaned forward. "Can I ask you something? How did you know to look for this?" "I found some suspicious documents on my server months ago. I wasn't sure what to do about it." "You did the right thing. Family or not, fraud is fraud." After Mark left, I sat in the coffee shop scrolling through my phone. Austin's Instagram had gone dark. No posts for 3 days. Mom's Facebook was full of vague posts about family betrayal and forgiveness. My phone buzzed with a call from Harper. "Naomi, have you seen the news?" "What news?" "Check the business section of the city paper." "Online." I pulled up the website and found the article immediately. "Local man charged with grant fraud in luxury car venture." The story was brief, but damning. Austin's full name, his age, the amount of money involved, and a mention that the fraud was discovered when a family member reported suspicious activity. "Oh my God." "It gets worse," Harper said. "Sarah told me 3 other businesses have come forward, claiming Austin tried to use their information in various applications over the past year." 3 others? Apparently, Your brother has been busy. One of them is considering pressing charges, too. I hung up and immediately called Bella. Did you see the article? She asked before I could speak. Just read it. This is bigger than I thought. No kidding. I drove past that building where his showroom was supposed to be. There's a "For Lease" sign in the window. He never actually secured the space. According to the landlord I talked to, Austin made inquiries but never submitted an application or deposit. He was just using the address for his grant paperwork. That evening, I decided to drive past the building myself. It was a beautiful space in the Arts District, exactly the kind of location that would have been perfect for a luxury car showroom. The "For Lease" sign looked fresh, probably put up after Austin's lies unraveled. I parked across the street and stared at the empty windows, trying to process everything that had happened. 6 months ago, Austin had tried to steal my business identity. 3 days ago, he was begging me to lie to federal investigators. Now he was facing criminal charges and public humiliation. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Naomi, it's me. Austin's voice was barely a whisper. How did you get this number? I borrowed someone's phone. You blocked me. For good reason. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. About everything. Are you? Yes. I was desperate and stupid and I hurt you. I know that now. What do you want, Austin? Nothing. I wanted to hear your voice one more time before everything gets worse. How much worse can it get? The DA's office called today. They're filing formal charges next week. I closed my eyes. Austin. I'm not calling to ask for help. I know you can't fix this. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for being such a terrible brother. You weren't always terrible. Yes, I was. I was jealous of you my whole life. Your success, your independence, the way you never needed anyone's approval. I wanted what you had, but I was too lazy to earn it. So you tried to steal it? Yeah. And now, I've lost everything. We sat in silence for a moment, two siblings who'd destroyed each other in different ways. What will you do now? I asked. I don't know. Maybe leave town, start over somewhere else if that's even possible with a criminal record. Austin. I have to go. Take care of yourself, Naomi. And maybe don't become like me. The line went dead. I sat in my car outside the empty showroom, staring at my reflection in the dark windows. Austin was right about one thing. I had won. But sitting there in the silence, I wasn't sure what exactly I'd won, or what it had cost me. Tomorrow would bring new consequences, new fallout from the choices we'd all made. Tonight, I just wanted to go home. The silence was the strangest part. No angry phone calls, no guilt trip texts, no dramatic confrontations. Just quiet. I moved my office to a sleek space downtown, 3 blocks from where Austin's showroom was supposed to be. Harper joined me as a part-time project coordinator, and business was better than ever, apparently being featured in a fraud investigation as the whistleblower who did the right thing was surprisingly good for my reputation. You have that look again, Bella said, walking into my new office with coffee and her usual blunt observations. What look? The one where you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. She wasn't wrong. It had been 2 weeks since Austin's last phone call, and the silence from my family felt heavier than their anger had. Any word on the criminal case? Harper asked, looking up from her computer. Mark said the DA's moving forward with charges. Austin's lawyer is trying to negotiate a plea deal. And your mom? Radio silence. I think I'm officially disowned. Bella snorted. Good. They were toxic anyway. They were still family. Family doesn't steal from you and then ask you to fund the theft. My phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender made my stomach drop. Rylan. Subject. I owe you an apology. I stared at the preview text for a long moment, then deleted it without opening it. Who was that? Bella asked. Nobody important. That afternoon, I was reviewing client proposals when Harper knocked on my office door. There's someone here to see you. Says she's your cousin. I looked up, confused. I don't have a cousin. She says her name is Jennifer. She's Austin's friend. My blood went cold. Jennifer was Austin's on and off girlfriend, the one who'd enabled his schemes for years. Send her in. Jennifer walked into my office, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfect makeup was smudged, and her designer handbag couldn't hide the fact that she was falling apart. Naomi, thank you for seeing me. What do you want, Jennifer? I wanted to apologize. For Austin, for myself, for all of it. Okay. I knew about the forged documents. I helped him practice your signature. I leaned back in my chair. You helped him commit fraud. I thought it was harmless. He said you'd never find out, and even if you did, you'd understand because you're family. But I did find out. And you destroyed him for it. He destroyed himself. I just reported a crime. Jennifer's composure cracked. Do you have any idea what you've done? He can't get a job anywhere. His name is all over the internet. The landlord kicked him out of his apartment because of the publicity. That's what happens when you commit fraud. He's talking about suicide, Naomi. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? He's completely broken. He keeps saying his life is over, that there's no point in going on. Where is he? I don't know. He disappeared 3 days ago. Left his phone, his car, everything. I stood up, my heart racing. Have you called the police? They said he's an adult and hasn't technically committed a crime by leaving. But I'm scared, Naomi. Really scared. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only family he has left. Your mom won't even talk to him anymore. Mom won't talk to him? She's embarrassed, says he's ruined the family name. She's been telling people he's had a mental breakdown, like that's somehow better than admitting he's a criminal. I grabbed my keys. Do you have any idea where he might go? Maybe the lake house? Your dad's old place. The lake house had been sold years ago, but there was a public park nearby where we used to fish as kids. It was the kind of place someone might go to think, or to do something stupid. I'm going to look for him. Can I come with you? No. This is between me and Austin. The drive to the lake took 40 minutes, and I spent every one of them replaying Austin's last phone call, the defeat in his voice, the way he'd said goodbye like it was final. I found him sitting on the old fishing dock, staring out at the water. He looked smaller than I remembered, like the weight of his choices had physically diminished him. Austin. He turned around, and I saw that he'd been crying. Naomi? How did you find me? Jennifer was worried about you. She shouldn't be. Nobody should be. I sat down beside him on the weathered wooden planks. Talk to me. There's nothing to say. I ruined everything. My life, your family, probably your relationship with Mom. Mom made her own choices. Because of what I did. Because of who she is. She chose Austin the golden boy over Austin the human being. That's on her, not you. We sat in silence, watching the water lap against the dock posts. I never meant for it to go this far, he said finally. I know. Do you forgive me? I looked at my brother, really looked at him. The entitlement was gone, replaced by something that looked like genuine remorse. I'm working on it. That's more than I deserve. Probably, but you're still my brother. Austin wiped his eyes with his sleeve. What happens now? Now you face the consequences. You take the plea deal, you serve whatever time they give you, and then you figure out how to be a better person. And us? We'll see. But first you have to want to live through this. He nodded slowly. I do. I think I do. Good, because revenge only works if everyone survives to learn from it. We sat there until sunset, two siblings who'd hurt each other in ways that couldn't be undone, but maybe could be forgiven. The next morning, Austin turned himself in to face the charges. I went back to work, back to building something real instead of tearing something down. Sometimes karma needs a little direction. I had simply steered. But the best revenge, I was learning, wasn't destruction. It was surviving long enough to see everyone become who they really were.
The paper plate made a sad little thunk when my mother set it down in front of me. There you go, sweetie, Meredith said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of fake sweetness she reserved for public displays of motherhood. I know you're used to eating with the kids anyway. My name is Nicole, and I should have turned around and walked out right then. But I didn't. I never did. Benjamin got the good china, of course. The wedding china with the delicate gold rim that only came out for special occasions, which apparently meant any time my Harvard-educated finance bro brother graced us with his presence. His fiancée Jocelyn got matching plates naturally. Even Dad got real dishes. Me? Paper plate royalty, population 1. So, Nicole, Benjamin said, cutting into his perfectly grilled steak with actual silverware while I held a plastic fork. Still playing house with other people's kids? The backyard fell silent except for the sizzle of the grill. Dad cleared his throat. Jocelyn examined her manicure. Meredith actually smiled. She's doing very well for herself, Dad offered weakly. Oh, I'm sure she is, Benjamin continued, that smirk spreading across his face like spilled wine on white fabric. What's the going rate for professional babysitting these days? 15 an hour? 20 if you're really good with diapers? Jocelyn giggled. Actually giggled. I work with families, I said quietly, cutting my steak with the edge of my plastic fork. I help parents. Right, Benjamin waved his hand dismissively. You're like what do they call it? A nanny? That's adorable, really. Most people grow out of playing mommy, but hey, if it pays the bills. Meredith leaned forward, her eyes bright with the kind of malicious joy that comes from watching someone else get torn down. Benjamin's just gotten another promotion, you know. Senior vice president now. They're talking about making him partner before he's 35. 34, actually, Benjamin corrected, puffing up like a peacock. Youngest in the firm's history. Meanwhile, Meredith continued, turning to me with that smile that never reached her eyes, Nicole's still changing diapers and singing lullabies to millionaire babies. At least someone's children are getting the benefit of her talents. The way she said talents made it sound like a disease. I took another bite of steak, chewed slowly, swallowed. Must be nice, Jocelyn chimed in, having such a simple life. No stress, no real responsibilities. Just playing with toys all day. And the best part, Benjamin added, leaning back in his chair like he owned the world, is that there's no pressure to actually succeed at anything. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? A kid cries? Oh no. They all laughed. Even Dad managed a weak chuckle. I set down my plastic fork and reached into my purse. The glossy brochure felt smooth between my fingers as I pulled it out and placed it gently on the table. The laughter died. Meredith's eyes locked onto the image immediately. I watched her face change, the cruel smile melting into something hungry and desperate. "Is that?" she whispered. "The lake house on Willow Creek," I said simply. "The one you've been talking about for, 15 years now?" Meredith's hand shot out to grab the brochure, her fingers trembling slightly as she opened it. "Oh my God, it's back on the market." "I thought it sold," Dad said, leaning over to look. "It did," Meredith breathed, her voice thick with longing. "But the buyers fell through. I've been checking the listing every single day for 3 years. Every single day." Benjamin rolled his eyes. "Mom, you can't afford that place. It's 2 million? 3? 4.2, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "I looked it up," I shrugged. "Seemed like something you'd want to know." Meredith clutched the brochure to her chest like a love letter. "It's perfect. The wraparound porch, the private dock, those gorgeous bay windows, I could host book club there, garden parties. Benjamin, you and Jocelyn could have your wedding reception there." "If we could afford it," Benjamin muttered. "We could take out a loan," Meredith said desperately. "Use the house as collateral, or maybe your father's retirement fund." "Meredith," Dad warned. I watched this little family drama unfold, feeling strangely detached from it all. Like I was watching a movie where I already knew the ending. "Well," I said, standing up and brushing imaginary crumbs from my lap, "I should probably get going. Early day tomorrow." "Of course," Meredith said absently, still staring at the brochure. "More babysitting." "Something like that." I walked toward the house, leaving my paper plate on the table like the peasant I was supposed to be. But just before I reached the door, I turned back and smiled. "Oh, and Mom? You might want to keep an eye on that listing. I hear it's going to sell fast." The rejection letter from State University arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because it was the same day Benjamin got his acceptance to Harvard. "Nicole, honey, come downstairs." Meredith's voice rang through the house like a dinner bell. "We have news to celebrate." I was 17, sitting on my bedroom floor surrounded by college brochures for early childhood education programs. The thin envelope from State sat unopened on my desk. I already knew what it said. Thin envelopes never brought good news. When I got downstairs, Benjamin was holding a thick packet, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. Which, in Meredith's eyes, he basically had. "Harvard!" she shrieked, throwing her arms around him. "My baby got into Harvard!" Dad clapped Benjamin on the back. "Knew you had it in you, son." "Full academic scholarship, too," Benjamin said, because of course he did. They said my essay on economic theory was exceptionally mature for someone my age. Meredith pressed her hands to her chest like she might faint from pride. "I have to call everyone. Your Aunt Susan, the neighbors, my book club." "What about Nicole?" Dad asked, noticing me standing in the doorway. "Any word from your schools?" I held up the thin envelope. State University. Didn't get in. The celebration didn't exactly stop, but it definitely dimmed. Like someone had put a lampshade over the sun. "Oh," Meredith said, her voice flat. "Well, there are other schools." "What were you applying for again?" Benjamin asked, though I'd told him a dozen times. "Early childhood development. I want to study child psychology, maybe get into family counseling." Benjamin snorted. "You want to major in toys?" "It's not toys," I said quietly. "It's about understanding how children develop emotionally, how to help them process trauma, build confidence." "Sweetie, Meredith interrupted. Maybe this is a sign. College is expensive, and if you're just going to end up babysitting anyway, I'm not just babysitting. I want to help families, make a difference in kids' lives. That's very noble, she said in the tone people use when they mean the opposite. But Benjamin needs our focus right now. Harvard is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. 3 months later, I was watching 4-year-old Emma Rodriguez build a tower out of blocks while her mother worked from home upstairs. Miss Nicole, Emma said, carefully placing another block on top, why do some towers fall down? Well, I said, sitting cross-legged beside her, sometimes the foundation isn't strong enough. Or sometimes we build too fast without making sure each piece is secure. Emma nodded seriously, like I'd just explained quantum physics. Like when Mommy and Daddy yell, their tower falls down? My heart clenched. Emma's parents had been fighting a lot lately, loud enough that the neighbors complained. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to build their towers, I said carefully. But that doesn't mean it's your fault when they fall down. Emma looked at me with those huge brown eyes. Will you teach me how to build strong towers? Every day, I promised. That night, I called Selena. I think I'm actually good at this, I told her, pacing around my tiny apartment. Of course you are, Selena said. You've been taking care of everyone else's emotional needs since we were kids. Remember when you talked me through my parents' divorce in 8th grade? This is different. These kids actually listen to me. They trust me. Unlike your family. I winced. Selena. What? I'm just saying. You've got this gift for making people feel heard and valued, but your own family treats you like you're invisible. They don't... Nicole, your mom served you dinner on a paper plate last week. I couldn't argue with that. You know what you should do, Selena continued. Start recording some of this stuff, the things you tell the kids, the techniques you use. Parents would eat that up. Who's going to listen to a college dropout with no credentials? Someone who actually knows what they're talking about, which you do. 6 months later, I was working for the Shepherds. Michaela was 8 then, all wild curls and fierce intelligence. Her mother Sarah was battling cancer, and her father Clark had basically disappeared into his work to avoid dealing with reality. Why doesn't Daddy come home anymore? Michaela asked one afternoon while we worked on her homework. Sometimes when people are scared, they run away, I said. Even grown-ups. Are you scared of anything, Miss Nicole? I thought about it. Yeah, I'm scared of not mattering. Michaela looked up from her math worksheet. You matter to me. That night, after Michaela was asleep, I sat in my car in their driveway and pulled out my phone. I'd been thinking about what Selena said for months. I opened the camera app and hit record. Hi, I whispered into the phone. I'm Nicole, and I spend my days with some pretty amazing kids who've taught me more about life than any textbook ever could. I paused, looking back at the house where Michaela was probably dreaming about anything but her mother's illness. Today, I want to talk about validation, about how powerful it is to tell a child that their feelings matter, that they matter. Because here's the thing, kids know when you're just going through the motions, and they know when you really see them. I talked for 10 minutes about active listening, about getting down to a child's eye level, about the difference between hearing and understanding. When I finished, I stared at the video for a long time before finally uploading it to a new account I created. Raising Whole Humans. 3 people watched it that first night. By morning, it was 12. 3 years later, I was sitting in a coffee shop with Selena, staring at my laptop screen in disbelief. 200,000, I said for the 3rd time. My book sold 200,000 copies. And that's just in the first 6 months, Selena said, practically bouncing in her chair. The publisher wants to talk about a sequel. And did you see the email from that parenting brand? They want to sponsor your next video series. I scrolled through my inbox. Collaboration requests, speaking engagements, interview requests from podcasts I'd never heard of. My Raising Whole Humans account had 1.2 million followers. This is insane, I muttered. This is what happens when you actually know what you're talking about, Selena said. Remember that video you did about bedtime routines? It has 4 million views. The one I filmed in my pajamas at midnight because I couldn't sleep. That's the one. Parents were sharing it like crazy. Finally, someone who gets it, they kept saying. My phone buzzed with a text from my current family, the Washingtons. Nicole, thank you so much for the advice about Emma's anxiety. She actually slept through the night for the first time in weeks. You're a miracle worker. Speaking of which, Selena said, pulling out a folder, we need to talk business. I've been managing your brand deals and sponsorships, but this is getting too big for me to handle part-time. She slid a contract across the table. I want to quit my marketing job and work for you full-time. Operations manager, business development, whatever you need. I stared at the contract. Selena, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm begging. Do you know how much money you made last month? Just from the book royalties and sponsored content? I shook my head. $47,000. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? And that's a slow month. The month your sleep training course launched, you made $82,000. The numbers felt surreal. 6 months ago, I was making $20 an hour watching other people's kids. Now I was apparently running a business empire from my studio apartment. There's just one thing, Selena said carefully. Your family still thinks you're broke, right? They think I'm a struggling nanny who can barely pay rent. Why haven't you told them? I picked at my muffin. You know why. Nicole. Because the second they find out, everything changes. Suddenly I'll be worth their attention. Suddenly my opinions will matter. But it won't be because I'm their daughter or because I've always been this person. It'll be because I have money. Selena nodded slowly. So what's the plan? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Meredith's name flashed on the screen. Perfect timing, I muttered, answering the call. Hi, Mom. Nicole, honey, I need to talk to you. Her voice was thick with tears, which was unusual. Meredith didn't cry unless there was an audience. What's wrong? It's the house, the lake house. It's back on the market. I sat up straighter. Again? The second buyer fell through. Something about financing. Nicole, this is my last chance. I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like that house is meant to be mine. I've dreamed about it for so long. Selena raised an eyebrow, clearly listening to every word. Mom, houses don't work that way. If you can't afford it. I know. But maybe there's a way. Your father's been talking about taking out a loan against his retirement fund. And Benjamin said he might be able to help with the down payment. Benjamin said that? Well, he said he'd think about it. The point is, I can't let this opportunity slip away again. I've been driving by that house every week for 3 years, Nicole. Every week. I could hear the desperation in her voice. The same desperation I'd felt every time I tried to get her attention as a kid. I have to go, Mom. I'm at work. Of course, sweetie. Give those babies extra hugs from Grandma. She hung up, and I stared at my phone for a long moment. You're thinking about it, Selena said. Thinking about what? Buying the house. I looked at her. That's crazy. Is it? You could afford it. Cash. And then what? Give it to her? Surprise, Mom. Your failure daughter just bought you a $4 million house? Selena leaned forward. Or you could buy it and not give it to her. The idea hit me like a lightning bolt. I opened my laptop and pulled up the real estate listing. The house was gorgeous. Exactly the kind of place Meredith had always dreamed of. Wraparound porch, private dock, those bay windows she'd obsessed over. I can't just buy a house to spite my mother. You wouldn't be buying it to spite her, Selena said quietly. You'd be buying it for someone who actually deserves it. I thought about Michaela, now 13 and still dealing with her father's emotional absence. Sarah had passed away 2 years ago, and Clark had thrown himself even deeper into work. Michaela spent most afternoons alone, texting me about school drama and friend problems. The Michaela Shepherd Trust, I said suddenly. What? If I buy the house, I put it in a trust. For Michaela. She gets a stable place to call home, somewhere she can feel safe and loved. Selena grinned. And your mother gets to watch someone else live her dream. I stared at the listing photos, my finger hovering over my phone screen. This is either the most generous thing I've ever done, I said, or the most petty. Why can't it be both? Clark answered his phone on the 4th ring, sounding exhausted. Nicole, is everything okay? It's kind of late. I was sitting in my car outside the lake house, staring at the for sale sign. I need to talk to you about Michaela. What about her? Did something happen? Nothing happened, but I have a proposition, and I need you to hear me out before you say no. Silence. Then, I'm listening. I want to buy a house and put it in a trust for Michaela. Somewhere she can have stability, somewhere that's actually hers. Nicole, what are you talking about? You can't afford... I can afford it. Another pause. Longer this time. How can you afford it? That's not important right now. What's important is Michaela. She's been bouncing between your place and her aunt's house since Sarah died. She needs somewhere permanent. She has somewhere permanent. She has me. Clark, when's the last time you were home before 8 p.m.? No answer. She texts me every day after school because there's nobody else to talk to. She's 13 and she's raising herself. I'm doing my best here, Nicole. You think this is easy for me? I think you're drowning, and you're so focused on not going under that you can't see she's drowning too. I heard him take a shaky breath. What kind of house are we talking about? It's on Willow Creek. 4 bedrooms, private dock, big yard. She could have friends over, throw parties when she's older. It would be hers, legally. The trust would cover taxes and maintenance until she turns 18. This sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? I closed my eyes. There's no catch. I care about her, Clark. I've cared about her since she was 8 years old and asking me why her daddy didn't come home anymore. Jesus, Nicole. I'm not trying to replace you. I'm trying to give her something I never had, a place where she matters, where she's the priority. And what do you get out of this? The honest answer was too complicated to explain. How do you tell someone that buying a house for their daughter is partly about healing your own childhood wounds? That every time you see Michaela struggle with feeling invisible, you see yourself at 13, desperate for someone to notice you existed? I get to know she's okay, I said instead. Clark was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Can I see it first? Of course. 2 days later, I met Clark and Michaela at the house. The realtor, Janet, was already there with the keys. Oh my God, Michaela breathed, staring up at the wraparound porch. This place is incredible. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, Janet said, launching into her sales pitch. Original hardwood floors, updated kitchen, private dock with deep water access. We walked through the house, and I watched Michaela's face light up at every room. She ran her hands along the bay window seats, peered out at the dock, claimed the bedroom with the best lake view. Dad, look at this bathroom, she called from upstairs. It has one of those fancy tubs. Clark stood in the living room, arms crossed, staring out at the water. This is a $4 million house, he said quietly. 4.2, I corrected. Nicole, I need you to be straight with me. How do you have this kind of money? I looked around to make sure Michaela was still upstairs. I started a business, online content about parenting. It took off. What kind of business makes $4 million? The kind where you actually help people instead of just talking about it. He studied my face. You're serious. Dead serious. And you want to give this to Michaela. Just like that. Not give. Trust. She'll own it when she turns 18, but she can live in it now. With you if you want. Or you can keep your place and she can stay here with a live-in caretaker. Miss Nicole, Michaela's voice echoed from upstairs. Come see this closet. It's bigger than my entire bedroom. Clark rubbed his forehead. This is insane. Dad! Michaela came running down the stairs. Can we get it? Please? I know it's probably too expensive, but maybe we could rent it or something? Clark looked at his daughter, really looked at her. For what seemed like the first time in months, she was practically glowing with excitement, more animated than I'd seen her since her mother died. Michaela, I said, what if I told you this house could be yours? What do you mean? I mean legally yours, in a trust with your name on it. Her eyes went wide. Are you serious? I'm serious. She looked between me and her father. But how? Why? Because you deserve a place that's just yours. Because you're one of the most amazing kids I've ever known, and amazing kids deserve amazing things. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. You would do that for me? I would do anything for you. She threw her arms around me and I felt something break open in my chest. This was what love looked like, not conditional, not performance-based, just pure and simple and real. Clark? I said over her shoulder. He was wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. Yeah, he said roughly. Yeah, okay. Let's do it. Janet cleared her throat. So should I draw up the paperwork? I smiled, still holding Michaela. Make it out to the Michaela Shepherd Trust. 3 weeks later, I stood in the empty living room of the lake house, watching contractors measure windows for new curtains. Michaela sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching furniture arrangements in a notebook. The couch should go here, she said, pointing to the wall facing the lake, so we can watch the sunrise while we eat breakfast. Good thinking, I said. What about the dining room? Big table, like really big. So I can have all my friends over for dinner parties when I'm older. The contractor, Mike, looked up from his measuring tape. You planning on entertaining a lot? I want this to be the kind of house where people feel welcome, Michaela said seriously. Where kids can come if they need somewhere safe to talk. Mike smiled. That's a pretty mature way to think about it. Miss Nicole taught me that homes should be about more than just having a place to sleep. They should be about feeling like you belong somewhere. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. At 13, Michaela understood things about love and belonging that my own family had never figured out. Speaking of which, I said, your dad's picking you up in an hour. You should probably pack up your sketches. Can I show you something first? She pulled out her phone and opened a video. I've been watching your content. My stomach dropped. Michaela, relax. I'm not going to out you or anything. But Nicole, this stuff is incredible. This video about helping kids process grief, it's like you were talking directly to me. She hit play, and my own voice filled the empty room. Grief isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to carry. And the goal isn't to make the sadness go away. It's to make room for joy to exist alongside it. That's when I knew, Michaela said, pausing the video. You didn't just buy me this house because you felt sorry for me. You bought it because you actually understand what it's like to feel invisible. Mike had stopped measuring and was pretending not to listen, but I could tell he was paying attention. Michaela, my mom used to say that some people are born knowing how to love people, and some people have to learn it the hard way. You learned it the hard way, didn't you? I sat down on the floor next to her. Yeah. I did. Is that why you haven't told your family about your business? Because you're afraid they'll only love the successful version of you? Sometimes I forgot how perceptive she was. Sarah had raised her to be emotionally intelligent, to ask the hard questions and sit with uncomfortable truths. Something like that. That's really sad, she said simply. They're missing out on knowing the real you. The real me isn't very impressive. Are you kidding? Michaela gestured around the room. You bought me a house. You've helped millions of parents raise happier kids. You made my dad cry happy tears for the first time since Mom died. How is that not impressive? Mike cleared his throat. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing. You're raising whole humans, aren't you? I nodded reluctantly. My wife follows your account religiously. She's always quoting your videos at me. Mike, Nicole says we need to validate Emma's feelings even when she's being unreasonable. Mike, Nicole says bedtime battles are really about connection, not control. Does it help? I asked. Our 4-year-old went from screaming every night to actually looking forward to bedtime. So yeah, it helps. Michaela beamed. See? You're changing lives. My phone buzzed with a text from Meredith. Nicole, honey, can you come to dinner Sunday? Benjamin has news to share, and I want the whole family there. Family dinner, I told Michaela, showing her the text. Are you going to tell them? Tell them what? About this. She gestured around the room. About me. About who you really are. I stared at the text message. Benjamin probably got another promotion or closed some big deal. There would be champagne and congratulations and stories about his brilliance. I'd sit there with my paper plate, listening to them celebrate someone who'd never once asked about my dreams. I don't know, I said. What if I came with you? Michaela, no. These dinners they're not fun. I'm not going for fun. I'm going to meet the people who raised the woman who saved my life. I didn't save your life. You gave me a home when my own father was too broken to see that I needed one. You showed up every day when everyone else disappeared. You bought me a house, Nicole. A house. How is that not saving my life? Mike was openly listening now, not even pretending to work. Besides, Michaela continued, I want to see their faces when they realize what they've been missing. It's not about revenge, Michaela. I know. It's about truth. And the truth is that you're amazing, and they should know that. I looked around the room, at the bay windows Meredith had dreamed about, at the hardwood floors she'd imagined walking across, at the view she'd pictured enjoying every morning with her coffee. Okay, I said, but we're not telling them about the house until I'm ready. Deal. But Nicole? Yeah? When you are ready, I want to be the one to hand them the deed. I smiled despite myself. Why? Because I want to thank the person who gave me a home, and I want them to see exactly who that person is. Sunday dinner at my parents' house felt like walking into a museum exhibit titled The Perfect American Family, if you ignored the paper plates and the daughter sitting in the corner. Nicole, Meredith exclaimed when I walked in with Michaela. You brought a friend. This is Michaela, I said. I used to be her nanny. Used to be? Benjamin looked up from his phone. Did you get fired? Her mother passed away, I said quietly. I still help out sometimes. The room went awkward silent for exactly 3 seconds before Meredith recovered with her hostess smile. Well, any friend of Nicole's is welcome here. Michaela, what a pretty name. Are you hungry, sweetheart? Starving, Michaela said politely. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Ryan. Jocelyn appeared from the kitchen carrying a bottle of champagne. Benjamin, should I open this now or wait until after dinner? What are we celebrating? I asked. Benjamin grinned. Partnership track. They're fast-tracking me, youngest associate partner in the firm's history. That's wonderful, I said, and meant it. Congratulations. 60% salary increase, he continued, because Benjamin never met a success he couldn't quantify. Plus bonuses, plus equity. We're talking serious money. How serious? Michaela asked innocently. Benjamin puffed up. Let's just say I could buy a pretty nice house with this year's bonus alone. Speaking of houses, Meredith said, her voice turning wistful, that lake house sold again, to some mystery buyer who paid cash. Can you imagine having that kind of money just sitting around? I felt Michaela tense beside me. 4.2 million, Meredith continued. In cash. The realtor said it was some kind of trust. Probably some tech billionaire buying it for their kid. Must be nice, Jocelyn said, having that kind of generational wealth. Some people are just born lucky. Or they work for it, Michaela said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. I mean, she continued, maybe whoever bought it earned that money. Maybe they built something meaningful and used their success to help someone they care about. Benjamin laughed. Sweetheart, nobody makes $4 million helping people. That's investment money, trust fund money, old money. You don't think someone could build a business helping families? What kind of business? Jocelyn asked, amused. I don't know. Maybe teaching parents how to raise emotionally healthy kids. Maybe writing books about child development. Maybe creating content that actually makes a difference in people's lives. The room fell silent. Meredith set down her wineglass. That's very idealistic, dear, she said carefully. But those kinds of ventures don't typically generate serious wealth. Why not? Michaela pressed. If someone was really good at it, if they helped millions of families, why couldn't that be worth millions of dollars? Benjamin was staring at Michaela now, something shifting in his expression. Because, he said slowly, parenting advice is a dime a dozen. Anyone can tell people how to raise kids. It's not exactly rocket science. Is it not? Michaela's voice was getting sharper. Because from what I've seen, most adults have no idea how to talk to children. They don't know how to validate emotions or set healthy boundaries or help kids process trauma. Michaela, I warned quietly. No, it's okay, she said, looking directly at Benjamin. I'm just curious about something. Do you have kids? Not yet, but... So you've never actually had to comfort a crying toddler at 3 a.m.? Never had to explain death to an 8-year-old? Never had to help a teenager work through anxiety or depression? Benjamin's jaw tightened. I don't need to have kids to understand that parenting isn't some complex professional skill. Then why are so many parents desperate for help? Michaela interrupted. Why do they spend billions of dollars on books and courses and therapy? Why are kids' mental health rates getting worse every year? Jocelyn was watching this exchange with growing interest, her eyes darting between Michaela and me. Maybe, Michaela continued, the person who bought that house actually understands something you don't. Maybe they know that helping families isn't just idealistic, it's essential. And maybe they're successful because they're actually good at something that matters. Michaela, I said again, but she was on a roll. Maybe they've spent years learning how to help kids feel seen and valued and understood. Maybe they've built something beautiful from nothing, and they're using their success to give other people the love and stability they never had. The room was dead silent now. Even Dad had looked up from his newspaper. Jocelyn cleared her throat. You seem to know a lot about this mysterious buyer. Michaela smiled. I know a lot about people who help kids. I've been lucky enough to have someone like that in my life. She looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes. A question, a challenge, a promise. Actually, she said, reaching into her purse, there's something I want to show everyone. My heart stopped. Michaela, don't... But she was already pulling out a folded document, her hand steady as she placed it on the dining room table. I want to thank the person who gave me a home. Michaela unfolded the document with the deliberate care of someone defusing a bomb. This, she said, smoothing out the creases, is the deed to 847 Willow Creek Lane. The lake house you've been dreaming about for 15 years, Mrs. Ryan. Meredith's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. "What are you talking about?" Benjamin demanded, leaning forward to read the document. "It's owned by the Michaela Shepherd Trust," Michaela continued, her voice steady and clear, "which means it's legally mine, but I didn't buy it." She looked directly at me. Nicole did. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. "That's impossible," Meredith whispered. "Is it?" Michaela asked. "Nicole, how many followers do you have on your Raising Whole Humans account?" My mouth felt like sandpaper. "Michaela!" 1.4 million, she answered for me. "How many copies did your book sell?" "Don't." 300,000 and counting. "How much did you make last month from your online courses and brand partnerships?" Benjamin was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "Nicole, what is she talking about?" Michaela pulled out her phone and opened my Instagram account. "This is Nicole, Raising Whole Humans. She's one of the most successful parenting influencers in the country." She scrolled through the posts, videos of me talking about emotional regulation, photos of activities I'd designed, testimonials from grateful parents. 4 million views on this video alone, Michaela said, showing them my content about helping kids process grief, the one that got me through the worst year of my life. Jocelyn grabbed the phone, her eyes widening as she scrolled. "Holy shit, this is you? You're the Nicole everyone's talking about?" "Language," Meredith said automatically, but her voice was faint. "Mom, do you have any idea how big this is?" Jocelyn turned the phone toward Benjamin. "I follow her. I've been following her for months. She's massive." Benjamin snatched the phone, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and something that might have been fear. "This can't be real," he said. "Nicole doesn't, she can't what?" Michaela asked sweetly. "Be successful? Be talented? Be worth something?" "How long?" Meredith's voice was barely a whisper. 3 years, I said quietly. "It started 3 years ago." 3 years. Meredith stood up slowly, wine staining her white blouse. "You've been lying to us for 3 years. I wasn't lying. I just wasn't telling you everything." "You let us think you were struggling," Benjamin said, his voice rising. "You sat there while you what?" I asked. "While you mocked me?" "While you called my work playing house? While you served me dinner on paper plates?" We didn't know. You didn't know, because you never asked. You never once asked what I was actually doing with my life. You just assumed I was failing, because that fit your narrative better." Meredith was staring at the deed like it might bite her. "You bought my house." "I bought Michaela a house." "There's a difference. You bought the house I've wanted for 15 years and gave it to a stranger. She's not a stranger. She's the daughter I chose to love." The words hung in the air like smoke. Meredith flinched as if I'd slapped her. "That's cruel," she said. "Is it? Or is it honest?" Benjamin was still scrolling through my content, his face getting redder by the second. "Do you have any idea what this looks like?" "My sister is some kind of internet celebrity, and I had no idea?" "Your sister," Michaela said, standing up, "is someone who saw a 13-year-old girl losing her mother and decided to make sure she never felt alone. Your sister built an empire helping families love each other better. Your sister is extraordinary." "She's manipulative," Meredith snapped. "This whole thing is manipulative. Bringing you here, orchestrating this reveal, I orchestrated it," Michaela said calmly. "Nicole didn't want to tell you. She was protecting you from the truth because she knew it would hurt your feelings to realize how wrong you've been about her." "Wrong about what?" "About everything." Michaela's voice was getting stronger. You think she's the failure in this family? Look around. She's the only one who figured out how to love people without conditions. She's the only one who builds people up instead of tearing them down. Dad finally spoke from his corner. Nicole, is this all true? I nodded. The money, the business, the house, all of it? All of it. He set down his newspaper and looked at me. Really looked at me, for what felt like the first time in years. I'm proud of you, he said simply. Meredith whirled on him. Proud? She humiliated us. She made us look like fools. No, Michaela said, picking up the deed. You did that yourselves. She walked over to Meredith and held out the document. This house could have been yours. Nicole would have given it to you in a heartbeat if you'd ever once made her feel like she mattered to you. Instead, she gave it to someone who sees her worth. Meredith stared at the deed, but didn't take it. The useless daughter you never wanted, I said, standing up, turned out to be someone else's hero. I walked toward the door, Michaela beside me. Nicole, wait, Benjamin started. No, I said without turning around. I'm done waiting. The fallout started within hours. Selena called me while I was driving Michaela home. Nicole, your phone is blowing up. Someone recorded the whole thing and posted it on TikTok. What do you mean someone recorded it? Jocelyn. She live-streamed the entire reveal on her Instagram story. It's already been screen recorded and shared thousands of times. Paper plate revenge is trending. I pulled over, my hands shaking. This is a disaster. Actually, it's not. The comments are incredible. People are calling you a hero. This is what generational wealth should look like. She chose love over blood. Finally, someone who puts kids first. Michaela squeezed my arm. See? I told you people would understand. But not everyone understood. Benjamin called that night, his voice tight with panic. Nicole, you have to fix this. The partners at my firm saw the video. They're asking questions about my family situation, about why I didn't know my sister was successful. It's making me look out of touch. I'm sorry your reputation is suffering, I said, not sorry at all. This isn't a joke. My promotion could be in jeopardy. Can't you post something? Explain that it was all a misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? That you spent years treating me like garbage? That you never once asked about my life? That you mocked my career while I was building an empire? Nicole, please. I hung up. The next call was from Dad. Your mother liquidated her retirement account, he said without preamble. What? She was so desperate to buy that house before you revealed the truth. She took out loans, cashed in everything. She was planning to make an offer this week. My stomach dropped. Dad, I didn't know. I know you didn't. But Nicole, we're in serious financial trouble now. The house sold, the money's gone, and we're left with debt we can't handle. How much debt? Enough that we might lose our house. I closed my eyes. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd wanted them to see my worth, not destroy their lives. Dad, let me help. No, your mother won't accept money from you. She's too proud, too angry. She keeps saying you planned this, that you wanted to ruin us. I didn't want to ruin anyone. I know. But intentions don't always match consequences. The hardest call came from Clark. Nicole, I need you to stay away from Michaela. What? Why? Because this whole thing has gotten out of control. She's 13 years old, and she's being dragged through social media drama. People are calling our house wanting interviews. She missed school today because reporters were waiting outside. Clark, I never meant for this to happen. I know, but it did happen. And now my daughter is in the middle of some viral revenge story instead of just being a kid. She loves that house. It's her home now. A home that comes with a price I didn't understand. I'm putting it on the market. You can't do that. It's in her trust. I'm her father. I can dissolve the trust if I think it's in her best interest. And right now, I think the best thing for Michaela is distance from all of this. The line went dead. I sat in my apartment that night, scrolling through the comments on the viral video. Most were supportive, but some cut deep. Using a grieving child as a prop for revenge is disgusting. This isn't heartwarming, it's manipulative. She destroyed her own family for internet points. Maybe they were right. Maybe I'd let my pain turn me into someone I didn't recognize. My doorbell rang. I opened it to find Michaela standing there with a letter in her hands. I walked here, she said. Dad doesn't know. Michaela, you can't just... I wrote you something. She held out the letter. Before you read it, I need you to know that what happened at dinner wasn't your fault. I chose to reveal the truth because I was tired of watching them treat you like you didn't matter. I unfolded the letter, written in her careful 13-year-old handwriting. Dear Nicole, my mom used to say that some people are born knowing how to love, and some people have to learn it the hard way. You learned it the hard way, but you learned it better than anyone. You didn't buy me a house to hurt your family. You bought it because you saw a kid who needed to know she was worth something. That's not revenge. That's love. I know Dad wants to sell it, and I know you're feeling guilty about everything that happened, but I need you to know that for the first time since Mom died, I felt like someone chose me first. Not out of obligation or guilt, but because they actually wanted me to be happy. That feeling is worth more than any house. You taught me that homes aren't built on blood. They're built on the people who show up, who stay, who choose to love you even when it's hard. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for staying. Thank you for choosing me. Love, Michaela. P.S. I don't care what anyone says online. You're not manipulative. You're just someone who figured out how to turn pain into purpose. That's not something to apologize for. I looked up to find her watching me with those wise eyes. Michaela, I'm so sorry this got so complicated. It was always going to be complicated, she said. That's what happens when you finally tell the truth after years of hiding it. But complicated doesn't mean wrong. She hugged me tight. Besides, she said, pulling back with a grin, I've decided I don't want to sell the house. Your dad said... My dad's scared. But I'm not. I want to keep it, and I want you to help me turn it into something amazing. A place where kids like us can come when they need to remember they're worth something. I stared at her. Kids like us? Kids who had to learn the hard way that love isn't guaranteed. Kids who know what it feels like to be invisible. Kids who need someone to choose them first. She was right. The house wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about transformation, taking something my mother coveted and turning it into something that actually mattered. What do you think? Michaela asked. Want to build something beautiful together? I smiled, thinking about all the paper plates and dismissive comments and years of feeling invisible. Yeah, I said. Let's build something beautiful. Turns out, some homes are built on love, not blood, and even paper plates can carry power if you know how to serve what's on them.
I should have known something was wrong when my mother hugged me at the funeral. My name is Rosalind, and in 30 years of life, I could count on one hand the number of times Nadine had voluntarily touched me. But there she was, arms wrapped around my shoulders while the pastor droned on about Grandma Elisa's eternal rest, whispering in my ear like we were conspirators. This is so hard on all of us, honey, especially you. I stiffened. The last week had been a blur of hospital visits, funeral arrangements, and sleepless nights in Grandma's Lake Tahoe estate. While Paisley posted Instagram stories about processing grief through self-care, I'd been the one holding Grandma's hand when she took her last breath. I'd been the one sorting through her medications, calling relatives, picking out her burial dress. You did so much for her, Nadine continued, her voice thick with what sounded like genuine emotion. More than anyone should have to do alone. Across the cemetery, Paisley sobbed dramatically into a tissue, her perfectly contoured makeup somehow remaining intact. A small crowd of her followers had gathered, phones discreetly recording her authentic moment of loss. My sister had always been beautiful in that effortless way that made people stop and stare. Even grief looked good on her. She loved you so much, I managed to say, though the words felt hollow. She loved all of us, Nadine said, squeezing tighter. But you were special to her. You sacrificed so much. The word sacrificed hit differently than she probably intended. 3 years of weekend drives to Tahoe, 3 years of managing Grandma's appointments, her medications, her loneliness. 3 years of watching my own life shrink while Paisley built her influencer empire and Nadine climbed the social ladder in Sacramento. After the service, people clustered around our family, offering condolences and sharing memories. I watched Nadine work the crowd like she was running for office, graciously accepting casseroles and sympathy cards. Paisley held court near the parking lot, explaining to her followers how Grandma Elisa was basically my spiritual guide. Rosalind, sweetheart. Nadine appeared at my elbow again. Can we talk privately? We walked to a quiet corner of the cemetery, away from the lingering crowd. The November air bit through my black dress, but Nadine seemed immune to the cold. I've been thinking about the estate situation, she began, her voice dropping to that tone she used when discussing family business. It's going to be incredibly complicated. Trusts, tax implications, property transfers. Jerry says the paperwork alone could take months. Jerry was the family attorney, a man who'd known Grandma for decades, but treated me like an inconvenience whenever I called his office. I can handle complicated, I said. Oh, honey, I know you can. But you've been through so much already, and honestly... She glanced around, making sure we were alone. You know how these legal types can be. They respond better to people like me. People who speak their language. People with money, she meant. People with connections. People who weren't grieving granddaughters in thrift store dresses. What are you suggesting? Let me handle the estate proceedings. Just temporarily, until everything gets sorted out. I'll make sure you get everything Grandma wanted you to have. You know I will. Something cold settled in my stomach, but I pushed it down. This was my mother. These were the people I'd grown up with, the people who'd raised me. If I couldn't trust them, who could I trust? Paisley's struggling so much right now, Nadine continued. Her brand is taking off, but she's got all these expenses. And you're so stable, so responsible. You've always been the strong one, the reliable one, the one who cleaned up everyone else's messes while they got to be fragile and beautiful and loved. I just want what's best for everyone, I said finally. Of course you do. That's what makes you such a good daughter. 2 hours later, I sat in Nadine's pristine kitchen while she spread legal documents across the granite countertop. The papers seemed to multiply before my eyes, trust transfers, property deeds, bank authorizations. My head pounded from crying and exhaustion. Just a few signatures, Nadine said gently, placing a pen in my hand. I'll take care of everything else. Paisley drifted in and out, occasionally glancing at the papers with mild interest. She changed out of her funeral dress into yoga pants and an oversized sweater, looking impossibly young and carefree. This is so sweet of you, Roz, she said, squeezing my shoulder. I know Grandma would want us to take care of each other. I signed where Nadine pointed. Page after page, signature after signature, trusting that the woman who'd given birth to me wouldn't lead me astray. 2 weeks later, I opened my mailbox to find a letter from Trust Bank. Dear Ms. Bond, thank you for completing the transfer of ownership to Ms. Paisley Bond. The Lake Tahoe estate and associated properties are now under her full control. My hands shook as I read it again, and again. Then I called my mother. Mum, we need to talk, now. Nadine's voice came through the phone, bright and cheerful, like she was planning a dinner party. Oh, Rosalind, how are you, sweetheart? I was just thinking about you. I got a letter from Trust Bank about the estate transfer. A pause. Then, oh, that. Yes, well, the paperwork went through faster than expected. Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful, my voice cracked. Mum, that letter says Paisley owns everything. The house, the properties, all of it. Well, yes. We discussed this, remember? The legal complications were just too much for you to handle right now. You're still grieving. I stared at the letter in my shaking hands. I never agreed to give Paisley everything. I thought you were just helping with the paperwork. Honey, you signed the documents. I have your signatures right here. What documents? You said they were temporary transfers. Another pause, longer this time. When Nadine spoke again, her tone had shifted slightly. Less warm, more businesslike. Rosalind, I think you're confused. Grief can do that to people. Maybe you should talk to someone. I hung up and drove straight to Sacramento. Nadine's house sat in one of those gated communities where every lawn looked identical and every mailbox cost more than my monthly rent. I'd always felt out of place here, like I was wearing the wrong costume to a party where everyone else had gotten the memo. Paisley answered the door in a silk robe, her hair in a messy bun that probably took 20 minutes to perfect. Behind her, I could see designer shopping bags scattered across the marble foyer. Roz! What a surprise! I was just doing a little retail therapy. Grief shopping, you know. We need to talk. Of course. Come in. Want some kombucha? I just got back from this amazing wellness retreat in Napa. Did you know that crystals can actually help process trauma? I followed her into the living room, where Nadine sat on the white leather sofa, a glass of wine in her hand, despite it being barely noon. Rosalind, she said, not getting up. I thought we settled this on the phone. You stole Grandma's estate from me. Paisley gasped dramatically. Stole? Ros, that's such an ugly word. What would you call it? Nadine set down her wine glass with deliberate precision. I'd call it practical. Paisley has expenses, commitments. Her brand is exploding right now. She needs the stability. And I don't. You're 30 years old with no dependents, no major financial obligations. You live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old Honda. You don't need $12 million. The number hit me like a physical blow. 12 million. I'd known Grandma was comfortable, but I'd never imagined. Besides, Paisley added, examining her manicure, it's not like you're getting nothing. There's still the trust fund distributions. A few thousand here and there. A few thousand? I stared at her. Paisley, do you understand what you just said? She shrugged. Money isn't everything, Roz. You taught me that, remember? All those lectures about being grateful and humble. I looked between them. My mother sipping wine like we were discussing weekend plans. My sister treating $12 million like pocket change. Something crystallized in that moment. Something I'd been avoiding for years. You planned this, I said quietly. Oh, don't be dramatic, Nadine waved her hand dismissively. We saw an opportunity to simplify things. Paisley's young. She's got a whole life ahead of her. You're more... Settled. Settled, I repeated. You know what I mean. You've always been the responsible one. The one who doesn't need much. Paisley's different. She's got dreams, ambitions. What do you think I have? Nadine looked genuinely puzzled by the question. You have stability, a good job. You're fine. Paisley's phone buzzed and she glanced at it, her face lighting up. Oh my God, the Lake Tahoe house is going to be perfect for content creation. The views, the aesthetic, my followers are going to die. You're already planning to use it. Well, yeah. I mean, it's mine now, right? She showed me her phone screen, a Pinterest board titled Tahoe Mansion Makeover. I'm thinking boho chic meets modern minimalist. Maybe some neon signs for the Instagram wall. My grandmother's house. The place where she taught me to bake. Where we'd sat on the porch watching sunsets over the lake. Where she told me stories about her childhood during the Depression. Paisley wanted to turn it into a backdrop for selfies. I need to go, I said, standing up. Already? Paisley pouted. I wanted to show you my vision board for the renovations. I walked toward the door, my legs feeling disconnected from my body. Rosalind! Nadine called after me. I hope you understand this was for the best, for everyone. I turned back to look at them one more time. Nadine, perfectly coiffed and completely unbothered. Paisley, already back to scrolling through renovation ideas on her phone. "Yeah," I said. "I'm starting to understand a lot of things." I drove home in a daze and called the one person I trusted completely. "Maya, it's me. I need your help. What's wrong?" "You sound terrible. My family just screwed me out of $12 million. A pause. Then Maya's voice, sharp and focused. "I'll be right over. And Roz, don't sign anything else." Maya arrived with a bottle of wine, a box of tissues, and her laptop bag. She'd been my best friend since college, and the only person who'd never made me feel like I was asking for too much just by existing. "Okay, start from the beginning," she said, settling onto my couch. "And don't leave anything out," I told her everything. The funeral, the papers, the phone call, the smug look on Paisley's face when she talked about her vision board. Maya listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. "Those absolute vultures," she said when I finished. "Roz, this is fraud, plain and simple. But I signed the papers. Under false pretenses, your mother lied about what you were signing." Maya opened her laptop. "I'm going to dig into this. What was your grandmother's full name?" "Elisa Bond." Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. As a paralegal, she had access to databases that regular people couldn't reach. I watched her work, feeling a tiny spark of hope for the first time in days. "Here's the thing that's bothering me," she said, scrolling through search results. "Your grandmother was sharp, right? Like, mentally all there until the end? Completely. She was doing crossword puzzles the day before she died. So why would a smart woman leave her entire estate vulnerable to this kind of manipulation, especially when she knew how your family treated you?" I thought about all those afternoons at Grandma's house, the way she'd watch me with those knowing eyes when I'd mentioned Paisley or Nadine. She'd never said anything directly critical, but there had been moments. "Actually," I said slowly, "there was something weird about 2 months before she died." Maya looked up from her laptop. "Weird how?" "She asked me to drive her to some office building in town. Said she had an appointment but wouldn't tell me what kind. Made me wait in the car." "Do you remember where?" I closed my eyes, trying to picture that day. It was near the courthouse. One of those professional buildings with lawyers and accountants. Was she carrying anything? A manila envelope. And she made me stop at a FedEx place afterward. The memory was getting clearer now. She seemed, I don't know, satisfied, like she'd accomplished something important. Maya's eyes lit up. "Roz, I think your grandmother might have been smarter than any of us realised. What if she filed something separately? Something your mother doesn't know about? Like what? Property deeds, maybe? Or a separate will?" Maya was already typing again. "I'm going to check the county recorder's office. If she filed anything in the months before her death, it would be public record." We spent the next hour going through online databases. Maya explained what she was looking for while I made coffee and tried not to get my hopes up. "Holy shit," Maya whispered. "What?" "Roz, come look at this." I leaned over her shoulder to see the screen. It was a property record from the Placer County Recorder's office, dated 3 months before Grandma's death. "Grant deed," Maya read aloud. "Grantor, Elisa Bond. Grantee, Rosalind Bond. Property, 1247 Lakeshore Drive, Lake Tahoe, California." My heart stopped. That's Grandma's house? Keep reading. The document listed not just the main house, but 2 other properties I'd never even known about. A rental cottage on the other side of the lake, and a small commercial building in downtown Tahoe City. "Maya, what does this mean?" "It means your grandmother transferred these properties directly to you, outside of any trust or will. They're yours, legally and completely. Your mother's little paper shuffle doesn't touch them." I stared at the screen, not quite believing what I was seeing. But why didn't anyone tell me? Because nobody knew except your grandmother. And probably whoever helped her file this. Maya scrolled down to see the notary information. "Look, it was notarized by someone at Tahoe Legal Services. We should call them." "Wait," I said, remembering something else. That day she had me drive her to the office. When we got home, she made this weird comment. She said something like, Sometimes you have to plan for the worst, darling. But don't worry, I've got everything handled. Your grandmother was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers, Maya said admiringly. She knew exactly what your family was capable of. My phone buzzed with a text from Paisley. OMG, Roz, you should see the contractor quotes for the Tahoe house. This renovation is going to be amazing. I showed Maya the text. She grinned wickedly. Oh, this is going to be good. Should we call her right now and break the news? No, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Not yet. What do you mean? I looked at the property records again, then at Paisley's text about contractors and renovations. An idea was forming, cold and clear and absolutely perfect. I mean, let her renovate. Let her spend her money making my house beautiful. Let her post all the content she wants and build her brand around a property she doesn't actually own. Maya's grin widened. And then we serve her with eviction papers. Roz, you devious genius. But we need to be careful. We need a real estate attorney, someone who can make this bulletproof. Can you find one? I know just the guy. But first, let's get copies of all these documents, and Roz, yeah, don't tell anyone about this, not yet. Let them dig their own grave a little deeper first. I looked at Paisley's text again, imagining her picking out paint colours and furniture for a house that was already mine. For the first time since the funeral, I smiled. Trust me, I said. My lips are sealed. Over the next month, I became a professional stalker of my own sister's social media. Maya had connected me with David, a real estate attorney who specialised in property disputes. After reviewing all the documents, he confirmed what we already suspected. The Lake Tahoe properties were mine, free and clear. But he'd also given me advice that initially made my stomach turn. Don't act yet, he'd said during our first meeting. Let them invest time and money into the property. Document everything. The more they spend, the stronger your case becomes for damages. So I watched, and documented, and waited. Paisley's Instagram became my daily entertainment. She'd rebranded herself as a luxury lifestyle influencer and was documenting every step of what she called her dream home transformation. The hashtags alone made me nauseous. Aninchitas blessed life. Tas manifesting abundance. Like lake house vibes. Look at this, I said to Maya, showing her Paisley's latest post. We were sitting in the small rental cottage that I'd discovered was also mine, a cosy 2-bedroom place with a perfect view of the lake. I'd been staying there on weekends watching the chaos unfold across the water. The post showed Paisley posing with a contractor in front of the house. The caption read, "Breaking ground on my meditation garden today. Sometimes the universe just knows exactly what you need." Grateful, Narain, new beginnings. A meditation garden, Maya snorted. Your grandmother is probably rolling in her grave. Actually, she'd probably find this hilarious. She always said Paisley would get her comeuppance eventually. My phone buzzed with a call from Nadine. Rosalind, sweetheart, how are you holding up? I'm fine, Mum. Good. Listen, I wanted to give you a heads up. Paisley's having some work done on the Tahoe house, and she's planning a little housewarming party next month. Nothing too big, just some friends and influencer colleagues. That's nice. She wanted to invite you, of course. I know things have been a bit tense since the estate situation, but family is family, right? I watched through my cottage window as a truck pulled up to the main house, workers unloading what looked like expensive outdoor furniture. Of course, I said. I'd love to come. Wonderful. Oh, and Rosalind, I'm so proud of how mature you're being about everything. It shows real character. After she hung up, Maya raised an eyebrow. You're going to their party? Wouldn't miss it for the world. The renovations continued at breakneck speed. Paisley documented every detail. The new kitchen with marble countertops, the infinity pool installation, the custom-built Instagram wall with perfect lighting. She'd hired a full production crew to film what she called lifestyle content throughout the house. But the real surprise came when I saw a familiar figure in one of her posts. Is that Kyla? Maya asked, squinting at my phone screen. It was. My ex-fiancé, the man who'd left me 3 years ago because I was too focused on family obligations, was now lounging by Paisley's new pool, drink in hand, looking perfectly at home. When did that happen? I asked, more curious than hurt. Maya did some digging through Paisley's older posts. Looks like about 6 weeks ago. Right around the time the estate transfer went through. Interesting timing. You okay with this? I studied the photo of Kyla and Paisley together, both of them glowing with the kind of happiness that comes from other people's money. Honestly, I felt nothing but relief. Kyla had always been attracted to easy success, and Paisley had always taken whatever she wanted. They deserved each other. I'm perfect with this, I said. In fact, it makes everything better. How so? Because now, when this all comes crashing down, I get to watch both of them lose everything at once. The party planning kicked into high gear. Paisley hired an event coordinator, a catering company, and a professional photographer. She'd invited what she called major influencers and lifestyle brands for what was essentially a commercial shoot disguised as a housewarming. Check this out, Maya said, showing me Paisley's latest story. She's calling it a night at the Bond estate. She's literally using your grandmother's name to brand her party. The story showed mood boards and vendor meetings, all tagged with sponsors. Apparently, several luxury brands were providing products in exchange for exposure at the exclusive Lake House event. She's making money off this party, I realised. A lot of money, from the looks of it. David, my attorney, was thrilled when I showed him the documentation. This is perfect, he said during our weekly check-in. She's not just living in your property illegally, she's running a business out of it. That's going to make the damages calculation much more interesting. How much more interesting? Well, let's just say your sister might end up owing you a lot more than just rent. The night before the party, I drove up to the cottage and watched the final preparations. Trucks came and went, delivering flowers, furniture, and what looked like a full bar setup. String lights were hung around the entire property, and a red carpet was rolled out from the driveway to the front door. Paisley appeared on the deck, directing workers with the confidence of someone who'd never doubted her right to be there. She was wearing a flowing white dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary, her hair perfectly styled for the dozens of photos that would inevitably be taken. My phone rang. It was Maya. You ready for tomorrow night? I've been ready for weeks. David filed the paperwork this afternoon. The eviction notice will be served Monday morning, right after their big party. I watched Paisley pose for test shots with the photographer, the lake sparkling behind her like something out of a fairy tale. Perfect timing, I said. Let them have their moment in the sun. And then they find out the sun was never theirs to begin with. The party was everything Paisley had promised and more. I watched the live stream from my cottage, a glass of wine in hand, and Maya beside me with a bowl of popcorn. The production value was incredible. Professional lighting, multiple camera angles, and a steady stream of beautiful people posing against the backdrop of what they all believed was Paisley's lake house. Welcome to the Bond estate, Paisley's voice carried across the water as guests arrived. She positioned herself at the front entrance, greeting everyone like she was hosting the Met Gala. The Bond estate, Maya muttered. She's really committed to this fantasy. The guest list was impressive. I recognised several influencers with millions of followers, a few local celebrities, and what looked like representatives from major brands. Paisley had clearly leveraged this party into a massive networking opportunity. Kyla appeared on screen, looking comfortable in an expensive suit I definitely hadn't bought him. He was playing the role of supportive boyfriend, holding Paisley's purse while she posed for photos and nodding along as she explained her vision for the property. And this is just the beginning, Paisley was saying to someone's camera. We're planning to turn this into a retreat space for wellness influencers. A place where people can come to disconnect from the chaos and reconnect with luxury. She's already planning the next phase, I said. Good. More evidence. Around 9 o'clock, Paisley called for everyone's attention. The crowd gathered on the deck overlooking the lake, champagne glasses catching the string lights. Someone had set up a microphone system. I just want to say a few words, Paisley began, her voice carrying perfectly across the water. 6 months ago, I was just another girl with a dream, but the universe has a way of providing exactly what you need, when you need it. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Someone shouted, "You deserve this!" My grandmother always told me that abundance flows to those who are ready to receive it, and I think she'd be so proud to see how I'm honouring her legacy by sharing this beautiful space with all of you. Maya made a gagging sound. Honouring her legacy? She's really going for it, I said, impressed despite myself by the sheer audacity. This house represents more than just a home to me, Paisley continued. It represents the power of manifestation, the importance of family, and the beauty of following your authentic path. My sister Rosalind, bless her heart, she's more of a simple living type. She wouldn't know what to do with a space like this. But I see the potential here. I see the magic. The crowd applauded. Someone started chanting, "Speech! Speech!" and Paisley beamed like she'd just won an Oscar. I want to dedicate this evening to my grandmother Elisa, who taught me that we're all worthy of beautiful things, and to my mother Nadine, who helped make this dream possible. Family isn't just about blood, it's about supporting each other's highest good. More applause. I watched Nadine dab at her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of proud mother perfectly. And of course, to my amazing boyfriend Kyla, who's been so supportive of this journey. "Baby, come here!" Kyla joined her at the microphone, slipping his arm around her waist. I just want to say how proud I am of Paisley for creating this incredible space. She's turned this house into something magical, and I can't wait to see what she does next. They kissed for the cameras while the crowd cheered. The live stream comments were flowing fast. Hearts, fire emojis, and dozens of people commenting about relationship goals and living the dream. "Oh, this is perfect," Maya said, screenshotting the kiss. "David is going to love this footage." The party continued past midnight. I watched influencers pose in every corner of the house, brands showcasing their products against the backdrop of the renovated rooms, and Paisley holding court like she was born to this life. Around 1 a.m, most of the guests had left, but the core group remained. Paisley, Kyla, Nadine, and a few close friends sat around the fire pit, sharing what looked like an expensive bottle of champagne. "I can't believe this is real," Paisley was saying, her voice slightly slurred from celebration. "Like, 6 months ago I was stressed about rent, and now look at this place. Look at this life." "You manifested it, baby," Kyla said, raising his glass. "You put it out into the universe, and it came back to you." "To manifestation!" someone shouted. "To family!" Nadine added. "To getting everything you deserve." Paisley laughed. They clinked glasses as the fire crackled between them, the lake reflecting the flames like scattered diamonds. Maya and I watched in silence for a moment. "You know what the crazy part is?" I said finally. "What?" "Part of me is actually happy for them. They look genuinely joyful, even though they stole everything from you. Especially because they stole everything from me. Because tomorrow morning, when that sheriff shows up with the eviction notice, this moment right here, this perfect, beautiful, completely delusional moment, is going to be the last time they ever feel this good about what they did." Maya grinned. "You're kind of scary when you're vindictive." "I learned from the best," I said, raising my wine glass toward the main house. "Thanks for the lesson, Grandma." The live stream finally ended around 2 a.m, with Paisley blowing kisses to the camera and promising so much more amazing content from the Bond estate. I closed my laptop and went to bed, setting my alarm for 8 a.m. I didn't want to miss the show. I was drinking coffee on my cottage deck when the sheriff's car pulled up to the main house at exactly 9 a.m. Deputy Martinez stepped out, official papers in hand, and walked up the front steps like he was delivering a pizza. The red carpet from last night's party was still there, looking sad and wrinkled in the morning light. He knocked 3 times, waited, then knocked again. Through my binoculars, I watched Paisley stumble to the door in a silk robe, her hair a mess from the party. Even from across the lake, I could see her confusion as she took the papers. Then I heard the scream. It carried across the water like a siren, high-pitched and full of rage. Paisley was waving the eviction notice in the air, shouting something at the deputy who was already walking back to his car. My phone rang. Rosalind! Paisley's voice was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. What the hell is this? Good morning to you too, Paisley. How was the party? Don't you dare play dumb with me. There's a sheriff at my door saying I have to vacate the property. This is insane. Your property? I asked calmly. That's interesting. According to the county records, it's actually my property. That's impossible. Check the deed, Paisley. Grandma transferred the house to me 3 months before she died. Turns out she was smarter than any of us gave her credit for. The line went quiet for a moment. Then, you're lying. Am I? Why don't you call your lawyer and find out? I heard muffled voices in the background, Kyla asking what was happening, Nadine demanding to see the papers. This is fraud, Paisley shrieked. You can't just steal someone's house. You're absolutely right, I said. You can't just steal someone's house, which is exactly why you need to be out by November 15th. That's 10 days. I know, I can count. More muffled arguing, then Nadine's voice came on the line. Rosalind, sweetheart, I think there's been some kind of mistake. Let's all just calm down and figure this out like adults. There's no mistake, Mom. Grandma made sure of that. But honey, you signed the trust documents. We have your signatures. For the trust, yes, but the house was never part of the trust. Grandma deeded it directly to me, along with the cottage and the commercial building downtown. Silence. Then Nadine's voice, much colder now. You knew about this. I found out after you stole everything else from me, yes. We didn't steal anything. We were trying to help you. By lying to me. By tricking me into signing away my inheritance while I was grieving. You don't understand the complexities. I understand perfectly. You saw an opportunity to take care of your favourite daughter, and you took it. The only problem is, Grandma saw you coming from a mile away. Paisley grabbed the phone back. This is ridiculous. I've put thousands of dollars into this place. I have contracts with brands. I have a whole business built around this house. That sounds like a you problem. Rosalind, I swear to God, if you don't fix this right now... You'll what? Sue me? With what money? Oh wait, that's right. You spent it all on renovations for a house you don't own. I could hear Kyla in the background. Baby, maybe we should call Jerry. Yes, I said. Call Jerry. Call anyone you want. The deed is public record. The eviction is legal. You have 10 days. I'm not leaving, Paisley said, her voice shaking with rage. This is my house. I manifested this. The universe gave this to me. The universe didn't give you anything, Paisley. Grandma did. And she gave it to me. I hung up and immediately called Maya. How'd it go? She asked. Better than I hoped. Paisley's having a complete meltdown, and Nadine's trying to figure out how to spin this. Are you recording any of this? I don't need to. Paisley's doing it herself. I opened Instagram, and sure enough, Paisley was already posting. Her stories showed her pacing around the house, papers scattered everywhere, talking rapidly to the camera. You guys, the most insane thing just happened, she was saying, her makeup smeared and her voice shaky. Someone is trying to steal my house. Like, literally steal it. They're saying my grandmother's estate transfer wasn't legal, which is completely crazy because I have all the paperwork. The comments were already pouring in. OMG, what? Call the police? This is so unfair. I'm not going anywhere, Paisley continued. This is my home. I've put my heart and soul into this place. No one can just come and take away what's yours, right? That's not how the world works. Maya texted me. She's live streaming her own eviction. This is incredible. My phone rang again. This time it was Jerry, the family attorney. Rosalind, I think we need to talk. Hello, Jerry. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. There seems to be some confusion about the estate documents. No confusion on my end. I have a legally recorded deed that predates any trust transfers. Pretty straightforward. Well, yes, I see that now. But surely we can work something out. Family shouldn't fight like this. You're right. Family shouldn't lie to each other either, but here we are. What do you want, Rosalind? I want them out of my house in 10 days. I want compensation for the unauthorised use of my property. And I want an apology. An apology? From all of you? for treating me like I was too stupid to notice when you were screwing me over. Jerry sighed. I'll talk to them. You do that. But Jerry, the eviction stands. 10 days. I hung up and watched another sheriff's car pull up to the house. This time, it was to serve Kyla with papers. Apparently, David had been busy. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Turn on Channel 7. This is about to get very interesting. I flipped on the TV just in time to see a news van pulling up to the main house. Somehow word had gotten out. And now the whole world was about to watch my family's dirty laundry get aired in public. I poured myself another cup of coffee and settled in to enjoy the show. The news story broke at noon. Influencer evicted from grandmother's estate in Family Feud, read the headline, scrolling across Channel 7. The reporter, a polished woman in a red blazer, stood in front of the main house while Paisley paced behind her, gesticulating wildly at anyone who would listen. The situation began when 27-year-old lifestyle influencer Paisley claimed inheritance of this $12 million Lake Tahoe estate, the reporter was saying. But court documents reveal the property was actually deeded to her older sister months before their grandmother's death. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Maya, David, reporters and numbers I didn't recognise. I'd turned it to silent and was watching the chaos unfold like a movie. Paisley had clearly decided that going public was her best strategy. She'd set up what looked like an impromptu press conference on the front lawn, still in her silk pyjamas but with fresh makeup hastily applied. This is about more than just a house, she was telling the cameras. This is about family betrayal. My sister waited until I'd invested my entire life savings into this property, and then she tried to steal it from me. A reporter shouted a question. But isn't it true that the property was legally deeded to your sister before your grandmother died? That's what she claims. But we're going to fight this. My grandmother wanted me to have this house. She told me so herself. I nearly choked on my coffee. Grandma had barely tolerated Paisley's visits, and everyone knew it. The camera panned to show Kyla loading suitcases into a BMW. Smart man. He was getting out before the ship fully sank. Kyla! A reporter called. Any comment on the situation? He paused, looked directly into the camera and said, I just want what's best for Paisley. This whole thing is really unfortunate. Then he got in the car and drove away. Paisley's face crumpled as she watched him leave. For a moment, she looked genuinely heartbroken instead of just angry. My phone buzzed with a call from Nadine. Rosalind, you need to stop this right now. Stop what? The media circus. Do you see what's happening? Our family business is all over the news. I didn't call the reporters, Mom. That was all Paisley. She's trying to defend herself. You've humiliated her. I've corrected a legal error. There's a difference. Legal error? Nadine's voice rose. You planned this. You knew about that deed the whole time. I found out after you tricked me into signing away everything else. And you know what? I'm glad I did. Because now I get to watch you both learn what consequences feel like. She's your sister. She's a stranger who happens to share my DNA, just like you. The line went quiet. When Nadine spoke again, her voice was ice cold. Fine. You want to destroy your own family? Go ahead. But don't come crawling back when you realise what you've lost. What I've lost? Mum, you stole $12 million from me. What exactly do you think I'm losing here? You're losing us. I lost you the day you decided Paisley was worth more than I was. This is just me finally accepting it. She hung up. On TV, the story was getting bigger. Social media had picked it up, and the hashtags were brutal. Paisley exposed. Yes, fake influencer. Yes, karma is real. Her follower count was dropping in real time. Maya arrived with Chinese takeout and a bottle of champagne. This is insane, she said, settling onto my couch. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Look at this, I said, showing her my phone. Someone had created a TikTok compilation of Paisley's manifestation posts next to news footage of the eviction. It had 3 million views already. The internet is ruthless, Maya said. But also kind of brilliant. We watched as more news vans arrived. Paisley had barricaded herself inside the house, but reporters were interviewing neighbours, former friends, even people from her yoga studio. The story was writing itself. Around 6 p.m, David called with an update. "The brands are pulling out," he said. "3 major sponsors have already terminated their contracts with her." Apparently, being associated with fraud isn't good for business. What about the damages? "We're looking at significant compensation. Between the unauthorised commercial use, the renovations she can't afford to pay for, and the legal fees, she's going to owe you quite a bit." "How much?" "Conservatively, around 200,000, maybe more." I looked across the lake at the house, where lights were on in every room. Paisley was probably trying to figure out how to spin this disaster into content. "She doesn't have $200,000, I said. "No, she doesn't. Which means she'll have to liquidate everything. The car, the designer clothes, probably even her engagement ring from Kyla. They were engaged, were being the operative term. He filed paperwork this afternoon to remove his name from all her accounts." Maya whistled low. "Brutal." "It gets better," David continued. "Apparently, she took out loans against the property to pay for the renovations. Loans she can't repay now that she doesn't own the house. So she's not just broke, she's in debt. Deep debt. And the lenders are already calling." I hung up and stared out at the main house. In 24 hours, Paisley had gone from lifestyle influencer to public laughingstock. Her boyfriend had abandoned her, her sponsors had dropped her, and she was facing financial ruin. "Do you feel bad for her?" Maya asked quietly. I considered the question. Did I feel bad watching my sister's life implode on national television? "Ask me tomorrow," I said, "when she's actually gone." But even as I said it, I knew the answer. Paisley had made her choices. She'd built her empire on lies and other people's money, and now she was learning what happened when the foundation crumbled. I didn't feel bad for her. I felt free. The moving truck left on November 14th, one day before the legal deadline. I watched from my cottage as the last of Paisley's belongings disappeared down the driveway. She'd managed to salvage some furniture and her clothes, but most of the expensive renovations stayed with the house. The infinity pool, the marble countertops, the custom lighting, all mine now. Maya knocked on my door around sunset, holding an envelope. "This was taped to your front door at the main house," she said. The envelope was cream-coloured, expensive paper. My name was written across it in Grandma's careful handwriting. "She left this for you." "Apparently." David found it in the safe when he was doing the final property inventory. I opened it carefully. Inside was a key and a handwritten note. "My dearest Rosalind, if you're reading this, then my little insurance policy worked exactly as planned. The key opens the desk drawer in my bedroom, the one you always wondered about but were too polite to ask. I hope you'll forgive an old woman for her dramatics, but I needed to be sure you'd get what you deserved. Not just the money, but the satisfaction of watching justice work itself out. The cottage by the lake has always been my favourite spot. I think you'll find it suits you better than that big house ever could. All my love, Grandma Elisa P.S. There's one more surprise in the drawer. Consider it a housewarming gift." Maya and I walked over to the main house together. It felt strange being inside without Paisley's chaos filling every room. The space seemed bigger, quieter, more like the home I remembered from my childhood visits. Grandma's bedroom was exactly as she'd left it. I used the key to open the locked drawer in her antique desk. Inside was another deed. "What now?" Maya asked, reading over my shoulder. "The cottage," I said, staring at the document. "She deeded the cottage to me separately. It's not part of the estate at all. Why would she do that?" I found the answer in a second letter, this one shorter. "The cottage is yours free and clear, no matter what happens with the rest. I wanted you to have one place that could never be taken away, never be contested, never be touched by family drama. A place that's just yours. Build your life there, sweetheart. You've earned your peace." Maya wiped her eyes. "Your grandmother was something else." "Yes, she was." We locked up the main house and walked back to the cottage. My cottage, apparently. The place I'd been staying for weeks without even knowing it was mine. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ross, it's Paisley. Can we talk?" I showed Maya the message. "You going to respond?" "Eventually, but not tonight." The next morning, I drove into town to meet with David for the final paperwork. The main house would go on the rental market. Luxury vacation rentals brought in serious money in Tahoe. The commercial building downtown was already generating income from 3 small businesses that had been renting there for years. "What about the damages?" David asked, sliding papers across his desk. "Forget them." "Forget them? Rosalind, she owes you over $200,000. She doesn't have it. And honestly, watching her lose everything was payment enough." David raised an eyebrow but made notes on the file. "You're cool. What about the trust fund situation? We could still pursue fraud charges against your mother." "No, let it go." "You're being very generous to people who tried to screw you over." "I'm not being generous. I'm being smart. Revenge is like a fire. If you're not careful, it burns down your own house too." I signed the papers and drove back to the cottage. There was a package waiting on my doorstep, a small box with no return address. Inside was a flash drive and a note. "Thought you should have this. Jerry." I plugged the drive into my laptop. It contained a video file dated 3 months before Grandma's death. The timestamp showed it was recorded the same day she'd asked me to drive her to that mysterious appointment. The video showed Grandma sitting in what looked like Jerry's office, speaking directly to the camera. "If anyone is watching this, it means my family has done exactly what I expected them to do," she said, her voice clear and strong. "Rosalind, sweetheart, I hope you'll forgive me for not telling you about the deeds directly. I needed you to discover your own strength first." She paused, adjusting her glasses. "Nadine, if you're watching this too, and I suspect you are, I want you to know that I see exactly who you've become. The way you've treated Rosalind, the way you've favoured Paisley, it breaks my heart, but it doesn't surprise me." The video continued for another few minutes, Grandma explaining her reasoning, her hopes for my future, and her disappointment in the rest of the family. "I'm not trying to destroy anyone," she concluded. "I'm trying to save the one person in this family who still has a good heart. Rosalind, build something beautiful with what I've left you. You deserve happiness." The video ended. I sat in my cottage looking out at the lake and realised something had shifted. The anger was gone. The need for revenge had burned itself out. What remained was something I hadn't felt in years: contentment. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Paisley. "I know you probably hate me, but I need to say I'm sorry for everything." This time I responded, "I don't hate you, I just don't trust you. There's a difference. Can we start over?" "No." "But we can start from where we are now." "What does that mean?" I looked around my cottage, small, cosy, mine, and typed back, "It means I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and you'll figure out where you're supposed to be too." I didn't wait for her response. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching something I'd been thinking about for weeks: a foundation for caregivers who'd been financially abused by family members. Grandma had left me more than just property and money. She'd left me a purpose, and for the first time in my life, that felt like enough.